It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Cork the Kid.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom. From movies, comics, TV shows, video games, we've got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. And Court, we're going to talk about the MCU this week. Surprise, surprise.
We're not going to talk about The Last of Us?
We are going to talk about The Last of Us.
I knew we were.
But we're going to talk mostly about Phase 4 of the MCU because Ant-Man Quantumania is coming out next week.
What a name for a movie.
Great name.
You couldn't do that, like, you know when you had to go to, like, the box office to get the tickets back in the day? You can't do that with a movie like that then, but you can do it now because everybody buys their tickets online.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna, kind of recap as best we can everything that we got in Phase 4. I mean, enough has been said about it that it's the biggest phase that Marvel's done so far not in terms of time period, but in terms of projects and everything. Yeah. It's definitely a wide ranging kind of thing that we got. We got a lot of different stuff, stuff that's, really unique from one another. We got, obviously this was the first phase that included TV shows. So that was exciting. That was kind of a new frontier upon itself.
Yeah, I mean, changed kind of the landscape of how we consume these bigger fandoms. I mean, the biggest fandom on the planet right now. It kind of changed the game, which is cool. And I mean, we're going to talk about the other side to the antithesis to Marvel, DC, and how, James Gunn just released their new slate. That's going to start, I believe, next year they're going to start. And it's cool because what's the difference between the two of them? One of these, universes are so far in the future. Like we're 13 years into, or 12 years into this? No, more. We're almost 15 years into this phase, and we're witnessing the birth of another, the other side to this coin. We're witnessing the birth of, new characters, new frontiers for them, which is kind of cool. So I can't wait to talk about both, but I got some thoughts about Phase 4. Good thoughts, opportunities for them, a whole bunch of big stuff. But I think this phase gets a bad rap in a little bit of ways.
I think so too. I think people were... this was really the first phase that was kind of really described as such. Yeah. Like, it was kind of a big presentation, like, this is the thing that we're doing, and this is the direction that it's all going in. So I think, social media has taken off precipitously in the last, 5 or so years. So that's also, like, everybody's a critic now, including us. But before we start talking about Marvel, we do have some news. But before we get to the news, we did kind of want to do a mini version of what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, talking about The Last of Us, talking about episode 4. So I guess we can just open it up to some quick thoughts. Obviously, we're not going to recap the whole episode because we're not doing a whole episode on it, but I guess we could just do some quick thoughts. It was a short episode. It was tight. It was action packed. It reminded me a lot of episode 2. So I kind of feel like I kind of get the pacing of what this show kind of is. Like, it's like you get like a story one, and then you get like an action kind of one, and then you get a story one, and then another action kind of one.
Yeah,
and that's
I think they might double barrel 4 and 5 with that action orientation because, we kind of know what's coming. So full spoiler warning for episode 4 of The Last of Us. So if you didn't see it yet, Rob will timestamp this and then you can come back or, work around this. But big takeaways from that episode. Again, to your point, I really like the flow. I love the moving nature of it too. And the adventure kind of starts. I think that's what I took from that. The travel nature of it, is needed for epics, such as a story like this. But what this really tackles is it goes farther into the relationship between Joel and Ellie. It's much needed because, like I said, episode 2 gave Joel the what, and episode 3 gave him the why. So now he has those two things, so now he can start on his hero's journey.
And he's starting to reconcile with that a bit. This is the most bonding they've done since this journey started, right. And you kind of start seeing those walls coming down for him. The big moment at the end of the episode is not a big moment, it's just a very subtle one of him laughing at one of her jokes. Like, that's probably the first time he's laughed in 20 years. You know what I mean?
Like a genuine laugh in 20 years.
Yeah. And, that's a really small but a really important moment. And then, you know, I quite like the humanization of the hunters. You know, we're talking about the game a little bit, like this set piece is relatively the same. Locations changed, but other than that, it's not much different. It's just these hunters are more than just enemy obstacles now that are to get past. They're people with goals and missions, and they have their own kind of storyline going on, which is interesting.
The big thing for me too about that is, see that line that people got so mad at Craig Mazin for talking about death being trivial. Like, you know, in a video game, I'm just killing the people that are in my way, but like Brian in this episode was, I mean, in the game, the guy also pleads for his life, but like here, like he's genuinely pleading for our life. And I mean, it goes back to that thing I talked about where like, you know, the people that didn't play the game, like, and then the people that did play the game, like, we have nothing but, like, a visceral reaction to seeing live action stuff versus, like, you know, video game stuff or animated stuff. So, like, seeing him plead for his life, like, you feel it a little bit more. And then it you know, it helps Joel, too. Like, it helps his development. It does, I mean, you know, narratively based, not like actually, because that's not a great thing to do to somebody else. But, you know, it helps that development in the way that what does he tell Ellie to do? He tells her to leave. Like, I don't want you to see this. So he's starting to be more conscious of her now. So you could start to see, you know, the mold taking place for what their relationship is going to evolve into.
Yeah, and him apologizing to her about, you know, not about putting her in that situation where she had to make the decision to shoot that guy. Joel just was like, I'm sorry, like, I put you in that position, but since I got you here, I'm going to teach you a thing or two. And I quite like that. It's a bit of a change from the game. When the first time Ellie shoots and kills somebody, Joel's very upset with her.
Yep.
And he's very defensive and like, I'm lucky I didn't get my head blown off by a kid.
And I think the answer to that might just be the structure of how the show is only 9 episodes. Yep. So, because in the game, it takes a little bit for them to reconcile that situation, but we don't really have time to, you know.
Yeah, basically what they did with the scene in the show is they mixed that moment in the game where she shoots and kills somebody with the rifle sequence, where he teaches her how to shoot the rifle, and they kind of build that trust in that moment, and they kind of mix those two scenes together for this, and I thought it was effective.
Yeah.
And right at the end of the episode, we get introduced to, you know, who we suppose is Henry and Sam, the people that the hunters are looking for, that according to the woman Kathleen, Henry betrayed them in some form. So
maybe, I think what's implied is that he ratted Kathleen out to Fedra that her brother was infected, and then Fedra killed her brother, and she's just like, I believe Kathleen's maybe a person that believes that, like, that doctor maybe could have saved her brother, even though, you know, there's, you know, quote unquote no cure. And I mean, I think they might play into that a little bit next week with, like, maybe it might slip through the cracks that Ellie is, you know, was bitten but not infected, like that Henry was right, or actually the other way, like that the doctor was right. But I mean, to Henry, his whole life is it is about, you know, keeping Sam alive too.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. It's really cool.
Is it cool?
Yeah. It's cool, like, added dimensionality to these characters and kind of giving them a motivation that exists outside of Joel and Ellie. Like, they have their own kind of storyline, and I think that's kind of neat. And looking forward to seeing how it's all going to culminate next week.
Yeah, and I mean, the big takeaway, and I touched upon it a little bit, is the stand-in that Henry and Sam is going to be, like, you know, they're going to be a proxy for Joel and Tommy. And I do think that we might see some flashbacks to Joel, because we teased it in this episode. Joel talked about it a little bit. Hey, this is what happened with my brother. Like, I need to make sure he's safe. Who's the other person in this universe that we know of that needs to keep his brother safe? That was Henry to Sam. So I think it's going to be a similar situation to that too. And they're going to tackle it a little bit. And I do think we might start the episode like that. We might get another cold open with, you know, Joel and Tommy, and then we might cut back to Henry and Sam and see, like, they're in the same situation that they were in too. So
yeah, it's super cool. The show continues to be great. It continues to get increased viewership. Every episode gets more eyes on it than the last, and this one is going to premiere on Friday.
Yes,
because of the Super Bowl. So which is cool, which makes me think that HBO wants people to watch this episode and get eyes on it.
This episode's got some energy, because just from the promo, I mean, you know, I won't even say what the big reveal was. It's you know, similar to an episode 2 type reveal, but it's gonna be, you know, for episode 5. But I mean, the biggest thing from episode 5, that's Henry and Sam's episode. So
yeah, So definitely looking forward to it. The show continues to be absolutely stellar. So we'll see what happens with episode 5. So now we can move into the news. First bit of news is Jedi Survivor has been delayed until late April. So pushed it back about a month and a half. Makes sense. I mean, I say this all the time about games. Like, if you got to polish some stuff and push some things back, go ahead. If you got to clear out for something else.
Yeah, they cleared out for the magic-sized elephant in the room. That's Hogwarts Legacy. So, I genuinely do think... Because if the game would have got pushed to June, I would have been like, okay, something might be up with the game, but IGN just posted the 9-minute preview of the game. They did a big clip and they showed some gameplay off. So that tells me that game's probably done. But I just don't think... I think Hogwarts Legacy started picking up a whole lot of steam over the last month. So they were like... I think they were confident because Jedi Survivor was like, we're off the back of a great first game. We're in the Star Wars universe. We're cool. And then Hogwarts Legacy started doing their previews and they started saying the features of the game. And then Jedi Survivor's like, yeah, we might need to clear out a little bit and give them a little, because it was only going to be a month in between the two of them. I don't think that was enough time, because I think previous, like December, maybe they were like, we're fine. Like, we don't really need to worry. And then, like I said, Hogwarts Legacy started really early reviews started coming out. People were really gushing over this game. So I think they were like, all right, we maybe need to.
Yeah, and Hogwarts Legacy, by all accounts, is a pretty big game. Yeah, it's not a game that you can breeze through in a few hours. It's going to be more of that open world RPG experience where it's going to take you 40, 50, 60 hours to complete and see everything. So makes sense, for any other game to, it's the thing that movies do also. Movies do this where, a big thing's coming. I mean, we saw this in 2014.
We saw this year.
With
Shazam and Avatar.
Yeah, Shazam and Avatar. I mean, Civil War and Batman v Superman were destined to collide at one point.
It was like a 2-week difference between the two of them.
And then I think it was BVS moved, right?
No, Civil War moved back because I think they were both slated for March releases. Yeah. And then Civil War said, we'll take the summer slot and we'll make a better movie.
Yeah, so, this isn't uncommon. And like I said, it's never a bad thing to tweak some things, fix some things before launch. If you need to, just take your time with things. I think that's good. I mean, I forget what game is it that talked about that kind of thing where they, just wanted to kind of, I think it's Insomniac. Insomniac talked about this with Spider-Man. They, the reason the release window is so big is because we want to give our people time to work on it and not be crunched and overstressed and overworked. The game's going to get here when it gets here. So, not a big deal. But we got some Avatar. Speaking of Avatar, we got some Avatar casting. So that's exciting. Yep. Avatar 3 is ramping up already. Yep. Because it's, now
coming out next year.
Yeah, we're on track now with these Avatar movies. So Oona Chaplin, who you might know as Charlie Chaplin's great granddaughter.
Is that a joke?
No, I think she's related to him.
Is this real?
Yeah.
Well, this is news to me.
Yeah,
this is why this is the news section.
Yeah, she's related to Charlie Chaplin. I can't remember what
oh, she's a nepotism baby.
Great niece, great something like that. But people may know her from Game of Thrones. She was the reason Robb Stark got beheaded. But she was good in that show. But she has been cast as the leader of the Fire Tribe in Avatar 3, which James Cameron has talked about. They're going to explore the Ash Tribe of Pandora, and she's going to be
successful movie mixed with a new tribe. That's a potent mix.
So she's going to be. It's going to be cool to get kind of a female leader of these tribes, which we haven't really had before. We had Natiri's father in the first one. We had the guy from the Sea Tribe, even though Kate Winslet was really the leader of that tribe. But now we're gonna have a fully fledged female Fire Tribe leader, which is cool. Yeah. I'm there's some real energy to these movies now. I mean, the second one really solidified that, but till the third one comes out and everyone's like, who's seeing these movies?
Yeah, just stop.
Everybody
stop, because now it is the fourth highest movie.
Yeah.
Fifth highest.
It's fourth, I think now. I think it is fourth now.
Of all time. So I guess the people that don't sit on Twitter for 12 hours a day are the ones that went to go see the movie and got it to that. So, the exploration of this world I think is interesting. I think something with, Sigourney Weaver's character is going to play into that. Like, she's got something. She's Avatar Jesus. So I think they're going to mess around with that a little bit more. She might be able to connect to these tribes, but I think this tribe is definitely going to be a little bit more antagonistic. I think that's going to be the play because they're red and the other ones are blue. So
yeah,
color theory. Film color theory.
Yeah, we talked about that when we talked about The Way of the Water. Like, it's cool that now we're...
I thought you were going to say the whole monologue from the movie when you said that. But...
it's cool that we're kind of getting into we're just trying different stuff.
It's a big planet.
Yeah, we did the forest, now we did the beach, now we're going to do a volcano.
What's after that?
The sky?
Mm-hmm.
So, just looking forward. I'm in. Mm-hmm. You already know this. Yeah. We all know this.
And I think there's a time jump for this movie.
Makes sense.
I know Loak's gonna narrate this. So Loak essentially, in my opinion, what a solid decision to make. Because you set him up on the same path that Jake was also the outcast, that he was the outcast of his family, and that movie focused so heavily on family. So I think that's a great decision, to have him be our point of view character, because, now just like us, we're in the world, but, we're still learning things that we need to know. So I think that's a pretty cool perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think Jake served his time, and Neytiri's on a villain arc, according to James Cameron, I think, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait till they go back to Earth.
Yeah, you got hints of it in Avatar 2 that she, she's
got a dark side.
Yeah, she's definitely got a dark side.
Yeah.
And then the last bit of news before we get to all the DC stuff, the Gladiator sequel that we talked about over the last couple weeks, briefly in these new segments, is coming out next year.
Yes.
So Gladiator 2 is coming out at the end of next year, November 2024.
Yeah, November 24th, I believe. So it's probably going to be a Thanksgiving release.
Yeah.
That weekend. So awesome. I mean, I've gushed about Paul Mescal last week. We talked about the Oscars. I think he's an actor that's gonna be like the indie version of Jonathan Majors, where Jonathan Majors is gonna stay in the mainstream, where Paul Mescal is gonna go on that smaller budget movies, but those super artistic movies. I think he's got so much talent, and I'm glad he's getting a franchise like this. I mean, one of the more notable action movies of all time, to be honest. So I'm glad he's getting that. You know who should have played Paul Mescal's character? Maybe the kid that actually played him should have played his character.
Yeah, I would imagine he would have aged.
You know who
into
that
it
is,
by now.
right? That's little Von Strucker from the MCU.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
I wonder what he was doing.
Probably just nothing.
Probably nothing.
They were like, let's get a real actor to do this.
See, he is a real. He was doing some acting in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Remember when they scrambled his mind? One day we'll talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, for sure. We could probably talk about it leading up to Secret Invasion.
Because
Agents
Chloe
of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Bennett may or may not be in that.
Is Chloe Bennett the worst liar in
No, she's not worse
history?
than Andrew Garfield.
She's pretty bad.
Oh yeah, because she had to, rightfully so, she had to defend her honor on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because people are jerks. And then she said, and then she had to put out the video, no way, shape, or form am I in this. And then she's just like, you're going to get proved wrong that I don't mean anything in a little bit. Yeah, she's coming back.
She's probably coming back, yeah.
What's Kang up to?
What's Kang up to?
Something's up. Something's up with
what do you
this
mean?
whole thing. Something's up.
Are you beginning to think he's no good?
Kang?
Yeah.
I'm on his side, personally. But we'll get into that next week. I personally want him to win.
Beginning to think this villain might be doing villain things.
Is it villainous or is it order?
Both? BOFF, both.
BOFF, both. Get into the DC stuff before I go on my rant again.
Yeah, we're going to do that right now. DC stuff. So James Gunn and Peter Safran did their best Kevin Feige impression. James Gunn,
no hat.
Sans baseball cap. I was disappointed. He should have had one that said.
But he has his white beard and hair, so I guess that's his baseball cap.
And his glasses.
And his glasses.
Thick rim glasses that he wears.
Yeah, it's a good silhouette.
He was like, "Hello, I'm James Gunn.
We know who you are. We know where you are. Where's Henry Cavill?" Said the people.
Welcome to Cribs. This is my DC. Behold my stuff. He said.
My stuff.
Like Carl Urban and Thor Ragnarok. I can't believe that was Carl Urban.
That's crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the official DC Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters has been revealed. Marvel, very Marvel-like presentation. James Gunn clearly been taking notes from Big Kev.
It's like when, like, you know, it's like when you have, like, your big boss and then, like, the guy that's moving up and he finally gets the job and now they're, like, peers. So
and he's, like, emulating the old boss.
Yeah, how did you get here?
That's what this was. Look, man, it worked. It worked for Marvel. So let's try to, try things a little Marvel-ish, borrow some things from them, but also, make things distinct. And I think that's kind of what this slate that he unveiled is kind of hinting at, that it's going to be in the vein of Marvel. Like, we have, instead of phases, it's chapters, and here's our movies, here's our shows, and then we got this other stuff on the side, which is basically what Marvel did. So I guess we should just start with the movies.
Sure. Let's start with the shows. I want to end with the movies.
We'll start with the shows. So the first show, Creature Commandos. It's going to be an animated series. As we kind of know with the HBO DC stuff, animation's kind of always been their strong suit. I mean, when you go back to Justice League and Batman the Animated Series, the movies, the animated movies, Batman Beyond, all that stuff, Harley Quinn, this is kind of their bread and butter, so it's cool that James Gunn is folding that in also, like, kind of keeping with the strength of what DC has done over the years has been their animated stuff, and in true James Gunn fashion, he's taking these characters nobody's heard of, and
I don't want to hear it. And
bringing them to an animated
when
thing.
we get around to the Authority, that's where I'm really going to get into my rant about James Gunn and James Gunn you should trust. But Creature Commandos, Rick Flag's dad's going to be in this.
Yep.
I don't know why I want Jeffrey Dean Morgan to play Rick Flag Sr. I don't know why I feel like that's just right, but that would be kind of cool. Weasel's back.
Weasel's back.
So what is Weasel just like? He's like the Wolverine. He just doesn't age. So that would be hilarious.
That is actually hilarious.
Yeah, but I guess this is going to take place during I think they're going to switch it from the 40s to like the 60s because Rick Flag's not 80 years old. So I think they're going to switch that around real quick and they're going to make it like, they might do like a Vietnam War type of thing instead of it's the same thing they did with Iron Man. Like for Iron Man, obviously the the movie didn't come out in 1960, so it wasn't the Vietnam War. They switched it to the Afghanistan War for Iron Man 1. I think this is going to be the same thing. They're going to move the timetable up to either the 60s or the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the animation's always been the strong suit. I think the stuff going like on HBO Max gives it a little more leeway to be a little more nutty and crazy, which, I mean, as Harley Quinn has proved, is a good thing, at least as the animation's concerned. So yeah, I'm all for it. I like new things. I like being exposed to new things, characters I don't know and I've never heard of. Like, I think that's super cool. So Amanda Waller's getting a show, which is not surprising.
I'm just the biggest reason I'm okay with it is because Viola Davis.
Award winner. EGOT winner.
Yeah, EGOT winner Viola Davis. She finally kind of gets her time to shine in the sun as like the main character or something. And I mean, what I always say to the people that say, why do we care? Is Peacemaker. Like, that's my answer to all that. And I'm like, and I'm talking about it, like, I'm culprit number one of when they announced these shows in 2019, that I was like, why are we getting a Loki shot? This doesn't mean anything. And then it's my favorite show that came out of this. Like, I didn't know at the time, but like, that's why. Like, it's the surprises you get, and like, there's still a story to be told. So, this is going to take place, inside of okay, so I think this Flash movie is going to reset everything. Like, I thought before they were just going to say, all right, new slate, we're not going to address the things. I do think the Flash movie, like, he's going to run and then he's going to reset everything.
He's going to run?
Yep. He's going to do some running. As the Flash should.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all great Flash moments involve him running.
So this takes place in between Peacemaker season 1 and 2, and some of the Peacemaker squad will be with her. Amanda Waller was in Black Adam, so I gotta assume Harcourt's probably going to be there.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on, because she got exposed in Peacemaker, but then in Black Adam it seemed like she was back in charge of something. So I don't know. I don't really know what's going on. I mean, it's cool if they want to try and set Viola Davis's character, Amanda Waller, up as kind of like the Nick Fury-ish kind of character in this universe. I think that works. She's kind of got the same kind of Fury-isms as far as like not trusting anyone.
I think she's a mixture between Val and Nick Fury, because there's something, and this is why, and we'll talk about it when we get to Superman in the true beginning, like he said, of the DCU. there's something I love about the Justice League being self-sufficient on themselves. So, like, you know, Batman himself and Superman and Wonder Woman kind of formed, and they were like, and then, you know, you have Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter there, like, and they were like, we're going to make our own team outside of any, like, government oversight, and, like, people were just okay with it, and this is one of the themes that's going to be huge, is, like, you know, the hope theme for everybody, and, like, you know, people looking, and that's why I think they called it Gods and Monsters, like, Superman is a god, but Waller has, like, monster integrity to her, so.
Monster energy. Trademark.
Nope, you can't do that. We'll get sued. But yeah, I think this show could be cool. They said it's like a big epic for her, which is kind of cool. So just remember what Peacemaker got after. Like, the beginning of Peacemaker was, you know, we thought it was going to be a little smaller scale, and then it was just like an interdimensional, not interdimensional, but you know what I mean, huge intergalactic beast that was in the bottom of a cave, and then the Justice League showed up, and we're like, what's going on? Like, this show's huge.
Yeah. So
I think this show can emulate that. And this is one of the final swings of the DCEU, too.
Yeah, one of them. Lanterns. So we're getting the much awaited Green Lantern show that was announced, like, in the Old Testament of the DCU.
The Old Testament. This was before the DC.
We were supposed to be getting this Green Lantern show that revolved around Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and lo and behold, it's part of the slate also. So that's what this is going to be, described as a true detective style show with the Green Lantern core, which is intriguing. Yeah,
I mean, I love the Green Lantern mythos. I mean, even before, you know, Jeff Johns' run, it's rich. It's got a lot, and that's something that's great. And we talk about, like, the DC individual characters have some of the best, you know, ongoing storylines. And I mean, you date back to, you know, 40s/60s for most of these characters. Like, it's rich. So you can get after a lot. I wonder where they're gonna put Hal Jordan. Like, I think that's the best way to kind of date the show, and, like, kind of in-universe date the show of, like, what we're going to get after, because where are you going to start Hal Jordan? Like, I think something interesting would be to, like, start him after Parallax took him over, but I just think there's something big about, like, Parallax being the thing that takes over the universe. So couple things from this. I mean, 1A, the True Detective cell is insane. Like, and I know the show's going to be a little bit darker. I mean, he said, like, he gave us our homework, which I think is cool. Like, the Jeff Johns run is the thing you want to read if you want to, you know, be prepared for a show like this, because he said it's Hal Jordan and John Stewart, but there's going to be other Lanterns that show up. So I think that's kind of cool. But I think I have a feeling what I think the big thing they're getting after. I think because he said they're gonna, like, unravel a mystery, right?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be Necron. Like, they're gonna do that whole thing with the Black Hand, and they're gonna get after that. And then I think the thing they might try to get to is Darkest Night, because we've already been through the Dark Side stuff very recently with Zack Snyder. So I think he takes a swing at, because Blackest Night was, like, a huge hit when that came out in 2009, 2008, 2009. Like, that was a massive. I remember being a kid and, like, you know, I was picking up those. I was trying to find those comics, like, online. Like, I was trying to find them because, like, how huge. Like, I heard about it. Like, that's how big that event got. So I think that's the thing they're trying to get after, because and this is the end of this, but Swamp Thing also has to deal with the Blackest Night, because it's something I haven't read it in a while, but it's like, I think it's Swamp Thing kind of feels something's wrong to, like, there's stuff that happens there. So I think the thing that's going to happen is, like, I hope they really lean into this Green Lantern stuff. Like, I talked about that in our theory. Like, I think that might be your best route, because you can stay Earth based, or you can go to space. And I think they're going to do both. But this one, he said terrestrial. So I think, like, this whole Black Hand Necron thing is going to start. And then, like, the end of the phase might be the Blackest Night.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and I like kind of how this is. This feels like it's going to be, like, the most important show that they do. I don't think that's an accident that that's the case. That Green Lantern is going to be basically the only member of the Justice League that's going to be on TV, but I think he's going to, like, graduate to the movies, like, later on.
I think both of them are. Yeah. And again, I got, you know, a couple things we can talk about. I mean, through here is, like, casting. I think, this is Glenn Powell's role to lose, in my opinion. I truthfully do think it's going to be Glenn Powell, and I can't remember his name, but Payback from Top Gun. I think they would be a good tandem because they've already worked together too. I think that would be really cool.
That'd be cool, yeah.
And they're around the state, I think they're both in their early to mid 30s, right? Glenn Powell's 33, and I can't remember how old the other one is. I think that'd be perfect because the thing is too, they also need to, and it was something he talked about, they need to grow into these roles. It can't be tomorrow we're going to do Crisis on Infinite Earths. There's something great about Superman being 25 in this universe, and how satisfying is that going to be if this all works out in 10 years? They get to they do Final Crisis or something, and the actor that's in their mid 20s is in their mid to late 30s by the time they do that.
Yeah, that's what that
kids
should be.
Grew up with this Superman and this Green Lantern. That's what I think they want.
That's the connective tissue that's made the MCU what it is now, is the fact that you took Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and all these other people and brought them on this 10-plus year odyssey. And that's why the payoff of Avengers Endgame is so sweet and bittersweet, because you're seeing these characters go through a multi-decade arc almost. And I think that's what is at play here. We got Paradise Lost, which is going to be a Wonder Woman-esque Amazonian prequel.
Game of Thrones inspired, is what he said.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll wait and see. I don't really have any feelings about this right now. This is probably the one I don't have any feeling about.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to happen. I mean, that's the cool thing about not just comic book properties, but any kind of rich kind of thing, is there's a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think, hopefully this can garner a certain audience.
Yeah.
Not everything's gonna land for everybody.
Right.
That's the trick with these multi-phase projects, that it's incorporating a bunch of different characters and sources. We can talk about that when we talk about the Phase 4 of Marvel.
Yeah.
Not everything is meant to be enjoyed by everybody, and that's also kind of, it's weird that I keep waffling back and forth with Thor: Love and Thunder, because now I'm viewing it through that lens also. Maybe that movie wasn't particularly made for us.
No excuses.
So yeah, I mean, that's, if they want to explore more of the Wonder Woman Amazonian stuff.
I wonder if they're gonna do some new God, because I'll save it for the end of this, but I'm still holding strong. They're gonna get to the new God stuff. I do think Darkseid's the true end of this whole thing, but they're gonna do it proper. I don't think this is gonna be a Zack Snyder 7 movies in, you're at Darkseid already. I think this is going to be there's going to be a huge build-up, but I think the New Gods are actually going to come into play on this too. They're going to take a lot of inspiration from Jack Kirby's Fourth World, and kind of mess around with that stuff in there too. I like your idea too. Bring Ava DuVernay back. If she was going to do it in the first place, might as well bring her back for this one too. Mr. Miracle, Orion, Big Bart, bring them all into this and get some actors that can stay along for a little bit. That can be another version of, how the Guardians played in the MCU. These characters that aren't, I mean, for them, this would probably be their version of the Eternals, as the New Gods. These characters that, there's a cast of them, and you can get some notable actors, but, you can have people fall in love with certain ones for different situations and different reasons.
Yeah. And then the last show on here was Booster Gold.
Yes.
So this was another thing that is pre even DCEU. This is CW era.
Yeah.
People were waiting for a Booster Gold. At the time, it was Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
That
teased
was always
it everywhere in the Arrowverse. Yeah. From the first episode of Arrow, they teased Ted Kord. So
yeah, so it's cool that we got a little bit of Booster Gold in Legends of Tomorrow, played by Donald Faison.
Yes. And they should have had Zach Braff play Blue Beetle.
They absolutely should have. But unfortunately, Legends came to an end, so short-lived screen time for Booster Gold on TV. So it's cool that they're going to go with Booster Gold.
Yeah,
I think
he explained it as an imposter syndrome as superhero, which is cool. I like these superheroes that have big flaws, and I mean, Moon Knight, if we're keeping holding with talking about Phase 4, Moon Knight it's for a majorly different reason, but these heroes that aren't great people to start. Mark Spector's not this great upstanding citizen to start.
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, obviously he has reasons, and he has things that happen to him in his life, but Booster Gold's just the guy that wants some glory. And that's it. And I think it's going to be a situation where he's going to get thrown in over his head. Like, he's going to be like, all right, I'm going to take this future tech back to the past. But what I want them to do is I want them to run into, like, a super dynamic villain that's, like, puts him in his place, essentially, and just, like, I have to figure this out. Like, without the Justice League's help, I got to figure this out. And I think what he also might do, he also might serve as, like, a, you know, plausible exposition, because he's going to know who Superman is, who Batman, he's going to know all these people, like, at the height of their careers. He's going to know their children and their grandchildren. So I think that's going to be an interesting perspective. That might be the perfect way to end, like, on a TV show front, end this, because he might come back and be like, holy crap, that's, like, super, like, that's the greatest hero of all time. Like, Walt Clark's, like, 25. Like, he's still, like, you know, super young, and, like, he's gonna look at him as, like, the greatest hero of all time. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then, I mean, I guess the last thing on the TV front is the red and blue elephant in the room, which is Superman and Lois. James Gunn has said that that's going to continue, at least for a couple more seasons, which we talked about last week. Good.
Yes. Yep.
We just got Michael Cudlitz cast as Lex Luthor for the next season, and we've both been so positive about Tyler Hoechlin's portrayal of the character. So it's cool that, you know, under this new umbrella that James Gunn has found a slot, not just for Superman on the big screen, but also keeping Tyler Hoechlin around also to do a few more things as Superman.
I do think whenever this DCU is all said and done, like, I don't know, this can run for a while, like, because of the ages he's going with for some of the, I mean, the Superman actors kind of, like, giving me a gauge on this. I feel like this thing could go for a while with, like, these main continuity heroes and just keep on running for a while. Like, I think they're going to do the Green Lantern thing. I think they want to put some distance between whoever the new Wonder Woman's going to be and Gal Gadot. Like, I think he's going to recast everybody. Like, I don't think there's going to be anybody that stays. The only person I can see staying, if you want to, you know, do the multiverse theory, is Amanda Waller. Like, I can see them keeping Viola Davis and be like, you know, in this universe, she also looks like her. But, yeah, I'm just glad this show's still running. I mean, my point is, I think they're going to culminate to something. Like, I genuinely think that, like, he's even going to get the DCU actors to come back for some last Crisis event. Like, what we think Secret Wars for Marvel is going to be is what I think, like, whatever the like, you call it Final Crisis, you do it 15 years from now, and, like, you get everybody back.
Yeah, that would be totally cool. And like I said, it's cool that, you know, James, I'm not surprised, obviously, but that he's paid enough attention to the TV stuff that came before what he's working on to acknowledge that, like, no, like, we're going to keep Superman around because he's great. Speaking of Superman, we can transition now to the movie reveals, the first of which I think we both agreed would be the perfect place to start this new DCU, which is with Superman. So that's going to be the first official new thing, because obviously the Flash is still coming out and Shazam and all that other stuff. But Superman Legacy, slated for release in 2 years' time, July of 2025. And, you know, this is, like we said, this is where you would want to start. You want to start with Superman. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, the three biggest call-outs for me is, one, he's writing it.
Yep.
And the rumor that's floating around is that he's going to direct it. I think this is one of those situations where I think he was going to get somebody else to direct it, and I think he started writing, and he was just like, who's going to tell this story better than me? And I mean, has he not earned this? Like, he's taken these characters that we don't know and infused so much love and affection and, you know, tender love and care into them. Why don't we do it with the prototype superhero in world fiction and literature, you know? Why don't we do it with Superman? Why can't I do this movie myself? Like, I think my pick is still Kaczynski. I think Kaczynski would be prime opportunity, like, to get a director that's, like, just coming off the heels of one of the biggest movies of the last 5 years. That's not a Marvel movie. I think that's important too, and let them, you know, own something that's this big. But I think Tom Cruise has got Kaczynski under its belt right now. But no, I think I'm genuinely okay if he directs this movie.
I think it makes total sense. I think I told this to you. Like, it feels like, you know, I think you mentioned to me, like, man, he's doing an awful lot, like, personally with this. And I think that's on purpose. Yeah. I think he wants his hands on this thing to build this thing up. And then once we get into whatever chapter 2 is going to be, disperse it and let other people kind of, but for now he wants, he trusts himself more than he trusts anyone else. Why wouldn't he?
Why won't you build the foundation yourself? Like, if we're going to do this, and the big thing is, you talk about this all the time with the DCEU, and I mean, I'm going to still argue it to the end of the day. I think the first 2/3 of Man of Steel and the very ending, it got it. Like, there's this level of, like, there's a certain aspect that needs to be overlaid over Superman that you need to start with. Because, like I said, you're dealing with the 3 prototype heroes. Like, Superman is he's the hero. Like, in terms of, like, we talk about fables. Like, the modern day fables are comic books. Yep. Like, that's what they are. So, like, you have the hero. You can't mess that up. B, you have the human, like that guy that's been through everything. Most, if not all of us, have been through something horrible. Like, you have the guy that rose above all of that, and it's the human amongst these gods. And you have this, beacon for female strength, which is Wonder Woman. Like, you have the 3 of them compiled. Like, you can't miss on any of those. Like, if those need to be the most solid of foundations. So I think for him, he's like, I ran my test trial. I got a talking tree and a raccoon to get emotion out of people. Like, these 3, I need to do it with them too. So I do think he's going to get somebody to maybe direct why am I forgetting? Brave and the Bold. Yeah. But I think the Superman movie he's going to do, and he's like, we're going to set some things up, but the biggest thing, I need to lay the thematic
This
foundation.
is Iron Man. This is their Iron Man. This is what's going to be the one that launches the whole universe, and it makes total sense that he's going to be the one to be hands-on. I'm sure, it's the reason why, Jon Favreau stuck around as long as he did in the MCU.
Until 2021, essentially,
because he built Iron Man. He built the cornerstone. It's the reason why, the Russos kept coming back to do Avengers movies.
I wish they came back to do a Thor movie.
Me too. Even Joss Whedon before the Russos was the one doing the Avengers movies, because those people that are your building blocks and your foundational pieces of your universe, you want them on everything, or as many things as you can get. It's the reason why Infinity War was so successful, because
collaboration.
Collaboration between James Gunn was there. And I think that's also kind of an understated thing about why I think James Gunn kind of has such a good handle on this, because over the last 8 or 9 years, he's collaborated with so many amazing directors from so many different backgrounds. I mean, you think of just the directors he worked with on Infinity War.
Ryan Coogler,
Jon Favreau, Taika Waititi, the Russos. Like, just right there, that's 4 different sets of directors that all attack things very differently. But we're all able to collaborate and create what we got with Infinity War, which is maybe the best superhero movie ever.
Infinity War?
As far as scope and scale and delivery and on what was promised, I mean, it's up there.
You definitely didn't watch Catwoman with...
So I think he's taking all that and starting it with the Superman movie. And then you mentioned Brave and the Bold, so I guess we can talk about that now. This is going to be the DCU Batman, basically.
I'll double fist my thing, because I wanted to say one more thing about Superman, but I can put it into the Batman part of it too.
So this is going to be the Superman, or the Batman DCU version. We'll talk about the other Batman in a little bit, but this is going to basically introduce Damian Wayne to the DCU. He made mention of wanting to incorporate multiple members of the Bat family. Like, he felt they didn't get enough kind of play, and he's right.
Very conscious decision, because what's the one thing that expands that Batman universe is so expansive because of its villains and because of the people around Batman. It's like the city he influenced by just putting on that suit one day when he was, in his mid-20s, like, influenced this entire city to, kind of evolve over time and evolve into, the new age of Gotham City. So I think what this movie's going to do, it's going to put a different spin than what we've seen on Batman in live action.
He's getting a Robin.
He's getting a Robin. That's simple as it is. He's getting a son. I think what they want to do, too, is put some separation between Ben Affleck's Batman and whatever this new Batman's going to be. I think they want to add a little bit more humanity back into this one. And I think they want him to be a tad bit more relatable as well. Because I think he's going to be a point in, like, I think I said this, whatever this Batman's going to be is going to be a point in between Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson. He's going to be somewhere in the middle of that, because for all intents and purposes, I think this Batman still might be kind of young, because Damian's going to be, what, 10 to 12?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, thinking about it, like, in all the aspects that you're saying, like, what you want to do is invoke the animated series Batman.
Yes, yep.
And translate it to live action. Mm-hmm. That's essentially the Batman that you're looking for. Yeah. Like, that's the Batman you're after. Right. That's the white whale that all Batman things should aspire to be. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to create a connected universe where this Batman needs to be a little more comic booky, a little less grounded, you know, not like the Dark Knight, not like the Batman, you need to be a float. You know, I think maybe the Affleck Batman went a little too far.
I don't think it's necessarily you went a little too far, but to that point, I think it was just so fast that he was already to that level where, like, he was just with Superman. Like, there was no gradual grace, because there should be like a fish out of water feeling. And I think an animated movie that captures this, I mean, based off the comic, is Justice League War out of the New 52 captures it, because, like, Batman's like, he still puts on the face that he's cool, but he's just like, there's a floating man that's flying around, and there's a guy that has a ring but he still in that movie takes the ring from Hal. Like, it's like still does his detective piece of it too. So I think this Batman is going to be, you know, probably around like 35 or something like that, like mid, like prime. Like, I think this is going to be like one of the first times, like, the Dark Knight is a prime like, we're going to see like a prime Batman that interacts with the rest of the Justice League. Like, we haven't seen a prime Batman do that.
Yeah.
And I was actually watching Justice League Unlimited, you know, I just wanted to say in the DC kick, so I'll go back to the Superman piece. So the biggest inspiration they're pulling from that is All-Star Superman. So I think it's going to be a mixture of, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be All-Star Superman is going to be like, it's going to be the feel of the movie is going to invoke All-Star Superman. I don't think the narrative is going to come close to it. I think the narrative is going to look a lot more like, I think it was the New 52 beginning run for Superman. I forget if it was All-Star or Action Comics, I think, tackled a lot of his origin in the New 52, but I think it's going to feel like that. Like, the narrative is going to look like that, but I think the feel of the movie is going to be all like hope, like the actual symbol on his chest, what it means. Like, that's like what he does for this universe. I think that's the big thing for him.
Yeah.
That was B for me, and then C is the casting. And I mean, I'll add that into the Batman. They gotta nail these castings. Like, these castings can't just be people that they throw in there because they look like it, or it can't be people that, you know, have a nice track record. They're like, these people need to be found. They need to know what they're signing up for. I think that was a big problem with the DCEU, is I don't think some of these actors understood what they were signing on for. And I mean, the big culprit for that is Ben Affleck. I mean, it's more circumstantial because I'm always on it. I'm on his side for that, because, you know, he was promised to direct and star in a movie with Joe Manganiello, and then, you know, it hits the fan at DC and at Warner Brothers, and then he's not allowed to do any of the things he was probably promised to. You know the toll it probably took him to get back into the suit, and like, they treat him like that. I'll never love. But these castings have to be dynamite. Like, the Superman casting has to be somebody that, like, and also the Superman casting has the most uphill battle, because you're replacing magically everybody's new favorite Superman over the last couple of years that just came out over the last year, that after everybody crapped on him, that it's magically, because he's gone, it's everybody's favorite Superman. But yeah, those are big shoes to fill, because it's, you know, the internet world, people are going to hate the casting out of the gate, regardless of who it is, or how they look, or how they act, or how, you know, ready they are for this role. You're going to get a lot of hate out of the gate.
Yeah.
And the Batman casting, has to go against Robert Pattinson, which a lot of people, including myself, are really clamoring onto. And B, you have, like you said, like, this Batman can't just be, like, grounded in realism, or it can't just be, you know, this big, you know, figure that can, you know, go toe to toe with, like, Darkseid. Like, there needs to be this middle ground, and, like, also, like I think you need to capture the actual humanity of what Batman is, like, that day-to-day struggle, like, that he has, but, like, now you're getting introduced the gods and monsters of this universe.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, the blueprint is there. It's Batman the Animated Series. It's Kevin Conroy.
It's and comic for this one is Grant Morrison's Batman, which a lot of people, as a prologue run, a lot of people think that's the best Batman run that there is. It's great. It's crazy, and that goes right along. And James Gunn said he loves that run on Batman, like, because it's crazy. Like,
yeah, he
turns into like a bat god in this. Like, it's insane.
Oh man, that's awesome. Speaking of wacky and out there, so the Authority is getting a movie. I don't know a lot about the Authority.
I mean, they're just from, I forget what year it was, but essentially they're a group that thinks that, I mean, Superman, and I think there's a reason why he went right from Superman into the Authority when he was talking about the slate, is like, the thing that Superman's movie's going to happen, and I think at the end it's going to be like, you know, the Iron Man, like, this is Superman, he's here to protect us all, and the Authority.
It'd be really weird at the end of the Superman movie if he went, I am Iron Man.
I am Iron Man. I am Superman. Clark, that guy looks a lot like you. Yeah. Yeah. But I think the Authority is going to look at that, and they're going to be like, absolutely not. Like, we are... You know, I wonder if they might pull the Authority from another universe and they might try to amalgamate them with, like, you know, Earth 3, like the Crime Syndicate, and do something like that. Or I wonder if maybe they are just going to put the Authority in main universe and just have them be this like almost Seven from the Boys-esque type of group. That's
Watchmen.
This vigilante group that, you know, has this great power that's going to be antagonistic to the Justice League. But this is why I'm so inclined to believe this Blackest Night theory, because, like, when Ish actually hits the fan, like, all right, Superman's like, all right, Apollo, like, we got to work together. Like, we have to be together for this.
Yeah. You know, like I said, it's one of those things where you really, that this type of project is like the Good Graces project. Like, it's getting off the ground because people are buying in. And, you know, that's why this Superman movie is so important, because if the Superman movie fails, this Authority movie will not work.
I feel like this Superman movie is also just culturally important. Like, this movie
absolutely.
is just to, like...
It's the most... It could be, without kind of... Hopefully I'm not hyperbolizing here by saying this, but, like, it could be the most important comic book movie that comes out in the next 20 years. Like, this is it. This is it.
Yeah, because this is also... And I always... You got to think about, you know, the kid lens for this. Like... Kids are going to grow up with whoever this Superman's going to be. Like, the same way when Iron Man happened, like, I'm the case study for Iron Man. Like, you know, people, like, around my age. Like, I was a kid when that movie came out, and now I'm not... I physically and literally grew up with the MCU. Like, there's going to be kids that grow up with this new DCU. That's
hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. So this is why this is so important. Like, you got to get people to believe in this universe, and then and where does this universe start with? It starts with Superman.
Yeah, that's why the Superman movie is so consequential. And then, you know, do you have any other thoughts on the Authority, or do you want to move on?
No, I personally think this might be the hidden gem of this thing. Nobody knew any of the Suicide Squad characters in this movie too. Like, I don't know why people are acting like they know these people. Like, after the Guardians came out, there was just this new narrative that everybody knows every comic book character.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just crazy to me that people are like, I don't know about the Authority, and then the Authority's going to come out. I think he's going to direct the Authority too. I think he's going to do Superman and the Authority. He was too giddy about it to not direct it, in my opinion.
It's the one, like, that of all of these that, like, just really stands out when you're like, huh?
Screams James Gunn.
It really does.
Make Freddie Prinze Jr. Apollo. That would be, and make Matthew Dillard, whatever the Batman stand-in is. It'd be perfect.
We're getting a Supergirl movie. Supergirl : Woman of Tomorrow,
yes.
Not Wonder of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I actually started reading that comic that it's based off of.
Makes sense.
Makes sense
that you want to do a Supergirl movie. Unclear if it's going to be the same person that's playing her in The Flash.
Well, I think that's Henry Cavill's daughter. Henry and Lois.
So she's
daughter.
out.
Yeah, she's out. She's gone. Yeah. She's out. I think they're going to get a completely brand new actress for this. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Bring Melissa Benoist back.
She's great.
Yeah, she is great.
They wouldn't, but she's great.
One thing about the Arrowverse, I think they nailed their castings across the board.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, and I mean, TV's a little different than movies. Like, TV's a little bit less forgivable about, you know, because they can throw somebody in and then they can immediately take them out if they want to.
Especially on the Superman side. I mean, when you talk about Clark, the casting for that with Tyler Hackman was picture perfect. Betsy Tulloch as Lois, she's amazing.
Yeah, their dynamic is just that you buy it immediately.
And Melissa Benoist was exactly she's exactly what was lacking at the time when it came to any type of Superman character. Like, she brought it. Like, she brought that
truth, justice, and a better tomorrow.
She brought it. She was just magnetic. Like, from the word go.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you know, that's the type of character you need for Supergirl, is like that kind of, she's happy-go-lucky, but also has that protective instinct.
Yeah, it's also protective, and I mean, the big thing about Woman of Tomorrow is, like, it's a purpose type of film. Like, it's begging the question, like, do we really need you? Because, and I think they're going to play into that too, and especially a lot of things that these female superheroes go through in the modern age. Like, a lot of, you know, horrible people don't want them because they're women. So I think that they might, you know, have a little commentary on that, because the big thing from this is, like, she's seen so much death and so much loss, and, like, by the time she got to Earth, Clark was already Superman. Like, he was already the world's greatest superhero. So, like, if she was supposed to protect the guy that's already protecting the entire planet, then what's my purpose in this whole thing?
Yeah.
So I think they said, like, they're gonna adapt that comic specifically, and Tom King is just, I mean, in my opinion, he's the gold standard of pulling emotion. So also, I just want to shout out the sales of these comics.
Yeah.
And something that, in my opinion, Marvel wasn't even able to do. Like, I wanted to get the Woman of Tomorrow comic, and it was sold out on Amazon. Like, you can't buy it. You can't buy the Swamp Thing. You can't buy the Swamp Thing complete. You can't buy Grant Morrison's Batman. You can't buy the Green Lantern. You can't buy All-Star Superman right now. Everything is sold out right now. And that wasn't the case a day before he announced this.
Yeah.
So, it's cool because, like, they're actually pulling stuff. Like, I don't think they're gonna. I think they are gonna, you know, freestyle, because every universe is different. That's, you know, The Last of Us. We talk about adaptations, but it's cool because he, like, read this before you do this, and, like, what does that do? Immediately gets people to buy the comic and, like, have it in their possession, and, like, skim through it. So
so that's a really cool aspect of it. Swamp Thing's back. We're getting a Swamp Thing film,
possibly directed by James Mangold.
Yeah.
What did I say? What did I want him to do instead of that?
Oh,
we had a full conversation about that.
Yeah,
I said I'd take him to do. Oh yeah, I'd rather James Mangold give away Swamp Thing so he can do a Red Dead Redemption movie.
Yeah, that's right.
With Jensen Ackles as Arthur. As
Arthur, yeah. Swamp Thing's cool. It's a fun horror kind of character.
Well, they said it's a horror. It's just it's not a multiverse of madness horror. Like, this is gonna be an actual horror movie, and
which makes sense.
I actually believe them.
Yeah. So that's cool. And then, I mean, the other thing that's kind of lingering is the Flash. James Gunn has said this is one of the best superhero movies he's ever seen. We'll see. It's gonna serve as probably the swan song for for the old guard of DC movies.
Did you watch Apocalypse War? I think that's literally how the Flash movie is going to end.
Makes sense.
I feel like the screen might just cut to white, and then that's it. And then it's the DCEU's here, and, like, the DCEU is gone. Yeah,
that makes total sense. And then I guess the other part of this is he didn't forget about Joker. He didn't forget about the Batman. He's rebranding them as DC Elseworlds, which is, or
as we like to call them, DC Cinema.
DC Cinema, exactly. I think it's a perfect usage of the Elseworlds banner to kind of put these alternate universe stories and movies in their own little vat, so you don't even have to worry about it anymore. And hopefully what that'll do is, especially as it relates to Batman, it'll curb that comparison piece, because they're not designed to be the same. Right. They're not supposed to. The Batman Part 2 is going to come out in October of next year.
Yes, so October 2025, we're going to get the Batman Part 2. Don't know what the narrative looks like. I just know I'm excited.
Yeah, so I think it's perfect. Use the Elseworlds banner. Like, it's a popular thing that people are aware of as it relates to DC. And
2 Batman at the same time is going to be interesting.
Yeah, but like I said, I think it's perfect that they're putting Pattinson's Batman under this Elseworlds banner, because it negates any reason for comparison. No confusion, no comparison. It's just, this is what this is. They're different universe, like, literally different universe. So you don't have to worry about none of these things. You don't have to worry about anything crossing over. You don't have to worry about any of that. Right. Until you do a Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever the case is.
I genuinely think, like, we're gonna, if this thing, I have hope. I genuinely have hope. Like, something feels so much better about this than we've gotten in the past. I feel like there's so much more certainty this time too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm still waiting to see on it. It all sounds good.
I have a money thing that I'm feeling. I feel like they I don't think they're in desperation mode, but I feel like Warner Brothers cleared out a lot of their executives too. Mm-hmm. Not only just across the board, it just feels like Warner Brothers had like a big shift.
Yeah.
So I feel this might even lend more to your Iron Man. Like, this is it. That Superman movie really is it. Like, if that doesn't work, this can be like the absolute financially crumble of like Warner Brothers itself. Because what do they put most of their money into? DC. That's where they put a lot of their money into. So
yeah,
they have to. They got to get this right. Danny DeVito is Superman.
Imagine.
Robert Downey Jr. Is Superman. Dude, here's the thing. I am Superman.
Oh, you're just doing Marvel again. Yeah. And it worked. Speaking of Marvel, so we are going to talk about MCU's Phase 4 now.
We should have made a different episode just to talk about the TCU.
We should have. That went way longer than I thought I was going to. But we are going to talk about Marvel now. Man, it feels like a million years ago when WandaVision came out. Yeah. But it was just 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago when the MCU Phase 4 officially began with WandaVision off the back of Avengers Endgame, the biggest movie of all time. And, it's a big... I think, I don't think a lot of people really understood what a big step this was.
Yes.
Because it was literally starting over, essentially. In the wake of Endgame, in the wake of, the Thanos Infinity Saga, 20-some-odd movies, wrapped it up, and now we're basically starting from square one again. And we started it with WandaVision.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about it is the time jump. There's the real world time jump. Endgame was in May of 2019, and we didn't get WandaVision until the middle of 2020.
Yeah,
and the world was stopped on top of that too. So the world itself was different. So this gave us a week-to-week thing to actually look forward to in a really crappy world. So I think that was something that was kind of cool. And it immediately what it did too was there wasn't some big opening chase sequence. There wasn't some big character reveal. It was just a 1950s sitcom.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a perfect way to kind of start this phase. It's giving us something that's very calming to start this whole phase before you kind of get to the end of this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what this phase did was it really hammered home what kind of the other phases had been doing kind of in bits and pieces, which was we're going to make all these things feel distinct from each other, good, bad, or indifferent. You're going to remember each of these for whatever reason. Like I said, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be other. And I think WandaVision was the perfect example. And what WandaVision did also was it set the bar.
Yep.
It set the bar as far as what you should expect from what the Disney Plus side of the MCU was going to look like. Because people went bananas.
Yeah, right. Not me, of course.
No,
I would never. I would never think Reed Richards was going to show up in this show.
It was absurdity. And this finally, WandaVision, like I said, set the bar. And, I think before we get into the categories and everything, I think the one thing about Phase 4 that is just, again, kind of understated in the wake of criticism and people want to pick apart every little thing is just how, sick it is that all these characters we got introduced to us in Phase 4.
That's my biggest takeaway is I don't think people understand. Phase 1 of Marvel what was Phase 1 of Marvel? It was an introduction of all these characters. So Phase 4 is a reset back to Phase 4 is what Marvel Comics did in 2015 with all new, all different after Secret Wars. That's how I view this. This is just the new status quo for all these villains. The universe has lived in. We had the event of the universe, it happened. So now we're gonna get back to status quo. These B characters that didn't get enough time to shine for these A characters, they are now the A characters. Wanda Maximoff, Bucky, Sam, they are our A characters now. And the introduction piece and I mean, one of the biggest complaints about Phase 4 is, where's the overall story going? Like, where was the overall story going in the first one? We didn't know what the big thing was until the very last second. Did this phase not do the same? Is it not clear that Kang is the big thing for this?
Yeah, and it did so pretty early on compared to, it was 4 years before we saw Thanos in the post-credit scene.
In a post-credit scene, right.
And then we didn't see him again until...
2014?
Yeah, again in a post-credit scene. And even when we saw him in Avengers 1 in the post-credit scene, you don't see the Infinity Gauntlet until... Ultron is when you see him grab the Infinity Gauntlet. Fine, I'll do it myself, and then you're like, "Oh, it's on."
And that universe was alive for 7 years before it did that.
And this movie or this sequence of movies and shows has already shown us. I mean, Ant-Man's going to do it. We're going to see Kang in full, like ready to go. So,
but again, that's not the point. The point of this phase was character building, and this phase, in my opinion, might have done the best of like. Showing a dynamic range between how to, the hero's journey and, questioning the ideologies behind it too. I think it's kind of cool, like that. It's not just Thor was down on his luck. He was a happy-go-lucky guy that, was partying too much and didn't care. And now he's worthy, and like Iron Man the same way, like, and Captain America's this all holy thing. Like these people that got introduced or are coming back from the phase are now at the top. Like they had a lot more trials and tribulations of
one of them became a villain.
One of them became a villain. One of them multiple of them had to take the mantle from somebody else, and three of them specifically had to take the mantle from somebody else, and they had to deal with what happens. I mean, Sam is the prime example of what happens when you try to take that mantle from the those beloved people, and like the symbol. What's more important, the man or the symbol? So I think all those things are really interesting. I think that's my biggest thing that I liked about this phase: the characters that we got introduced, and then what we did with minus Steven. Doctor Strange didn't develop at all. It's the same guy.
But that's the point.
Yeah, that's the point for him. He'll never learn.
Yeah. So let's dive in. We got. Of course, we have some categories to discuss. So I'll
you can DJ this one. I think I DJ'd the last one.
You're used to the category guy. So I guess what we could start with is let's start on that kind of character front, and let's talk about. I just have written here favorite origin, new character, or character change. So like you said, the kind of like those hero ascension moments, or one of those new characters that we got introduced to, someone's origin story. So who was it for you? And I also should say, with these categories, we did try to incorporate a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so I know.
So we're not talking about the same 4 or 5 things.
Right. And I know for me how I did it, I'm going to say one thing from a movie and one thing from a show.
Yeah, I think what I did was, I think I really did end up picking at least one thing from everything. So
I think I did too.
I tried. I think there might have been a couple things I missed, but I'm sure I'll mention them in passing.
Right.
But I think I pretty much nailed everything here. So
I mean, from the Disney Plus realm of it, I think my favorite introduction of a character it's a tie for me. It's probably between Werewolf by Night and...
That's a good one.
And I think between him and Mark Spector are my favorite 2 introductions. I mean, you don't just get Oscar Isaac and just, let him not be heard or known. He came in swinging, in my opinion. Moon Knight was getting to like... I don't think anything's going to get to the WandaVision levels, but Moon Knight was getting up there for a little bit. That show was week to week, heard and seen, and it was like very cerebral for people and a different look for Marvel. And I think Phase 4, that's a big thing for them too. Phase 4 is a lot of different looks for things. Doesn't feel similar to other things.
And those 2 things that you mentioned are prime examples: Werewolf by Night and Moon Knight.
Those not even close to the same type of characters too. So I thought that was really fun. And then for the movies, my favorite origin story was the origin of Peter Parker, Spider-Man. I think if you bottle those 3 movies into each other, it's just the satisfaction of all the things. And I mean, it's the lesson that Shang-Chi got in his movie, like that Michelle Yeoh was kind of teaching to him, like, you're a makeup of everything around you. Like Peter himself, his origin story, like literally it ended like those 3 movies are one. If you look at those 3 movies as one, and like Infinity War and Endgame and all those things that in Civil War that happened to him as like little injections into there, like that final swing is so sweet and so satisfying when you look at it that way.
Yeah, it's tremendous. We talked about it when we talked about No Way Home, like that realization when you get to end of No Way Home and you realize, oh, this is his origin story.
Yeah, this is Spider-Man, yeah.
Then now he's Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in New York City, down on his luck, living in an apartment, broke, all that. Like, they just gave it to us at the end of that movie, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I picked Kate Bishop as my best new character person thing.
Sure.
It's the Hawkeye show. She's the shining star of it.
Easily.
She's gonna be a force to be reckoned with when we get this new Avengers thing, or Young Avengers thing kicked off. Like, she's kind of gonna be like the figurehead of this. She got to work hand in hand with an Avenger already, which I think is kind of an important aspect that kind of goes a little overlooked, is that of all the like new Avenger characters we've introduced to this point, she's the only one that's worked hand in hand with an Avenger already. Which already kind of puts her on a kind of different plateau from all these other characters. And I mean, what can you say about Haley Steinfeld that hasn't been said already? Marvel, as always, almost always, nails these actors right when they're kind of on the ascent. And
they did it with Florence Pugh as well. For Black Widow.
And that's a great dynamic to kick off right away between the two of them.
Wouldn't be surprised if that's what Hawkeye season 2 is. I think it just genuinely might be just Kate and
and I mean, it could be just, you know, not to kind of be a downer, but the situation with Jeremy Renner, like, it doesn't feel like he's going to be returning to acting anytime soon.
Right.
So whatever Hawkeye season 2 is going to look like is going to be very Kate Bishop focused. If it wasn't going to be already, it, you know, the Jeremy Renner situation obviously kind of forces your hand a little bit. And if you're going to have your hand forced, I mean, Haley Steinfeld is as good an adjustment as you'd have to make. Right.
And I mean, the theme of this phase, and I should have said it at the beginning when we first talked about this, but it's if I were to sum this up, you know, how DCEU, you know, chapter 1 is Gods and Monsters, phase 4 is Loss and Legacy. That's how I would label this. This is what heavily this phase has to deal with. It's the legacy of these characters and the legacy of this universe, if you want to look at it outside in, but also the, you know, how much we lost, but how much, you know, these people need to ascend into their rightful place. And I mean, Kate, when I said there's 3, Kate's one of the 3. She's one of the 3 that needed to step into somebody else's role. And it looks like Haley Steinfeld herself is going to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, you can't look forward unless you looked back, so we'll do a little looking back here. Your favorite callback to a previous phase of the MCU?
Favorite callback to a previous phase? Why don't you go first, man? Go ahead.
You're not going to see this coming, but mine was Ultron's return in What If.
Oh, man. If there was one thing that show got right, and we just watched the clip before we hopped on, that might be the coolest thing to come out of Phase 4 that people never talk about.
Yeah, I wanted to show What If a little bit of love with my selections, and when I thought of that category, bringing back Ultron in the capacity that he was brought back was just brilliant.
So sick. It was so sick.
You know, the What If Ultron had succeeded basically, and then, you know, becomes the Vision, you know, perfect body, inherits the Infinity Stones, goes on a multiversal rampage, fights the Watcher in a Dragon Ball Z fight. It's great.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's
even the line, the writing in that episode was actually, it just felt like, you know, that genuinely felt like I was reading a Marvel comic, watching that. Like, as soon as Ultron turns around, it's just like, who's speaking? I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's tremendous. That show had its moments. It really did, and that was like just being able. What I liked about that show is it did take a lot of early phase stuff and kind of did something cool with it. And I think the Ultron thing is the best thing they could have done, because I mean, the joke of Age of Ultron is like, it was more like a week of Ultron. Right. Like, he didn't really do a ton.
This Ultron
is Ultron.
And I mean, the theory that led into Multiverse of Madness is like, how much does this What If show? Because I don't think you get Jeffrey Wright to voice it if he's not going to play it at some point in live action. Yeah. Maybe soon too.
Yeah.
You know, with Kang being on the rampage. And I mean, it goes to my bigger point of like, is this whole thing encompass it because the multiverse ended? Like, is that the only reason why we're seeing some of these things happening? But I digress from that. But I mean, for me, it's a very subtle moment and something super small. It's just when Hawkeye's looking at the that little plaque of the Battle of New York. I think that's a really great moment. I think Hawkeye has a lot of good subtle moments in that show. One of my favorite parts of that show, it's super sad, is when Nathaniel's trying to talk to him on the phone and he can't hear him. Like, that's good.
And Kate's kind of like translating,
right? And it's sad. Like, and what it shows is how much this guy has been through. Like, and that's what's good about like Hulk is different because like Hulk's been through a lot, but he's also like a big green,
indestructible monster.
Right. But like Hawkeye's a guy. Like, he's like a guy that's been through all of this crap from the beginning.
It's the Age of Ultron scene.
Mm-hmm.
The city is flying. We're being attacked by an army of robots. I have a bow and arrow.
Yeah, like all the glitz and glam that can come from being an Avenger that assumedly we're going to see from Scott Lang in Ant-Man 3. Like,
who's getting a real book?
Yeah, that we're going to buy.
I have to.
Yeah,
I have to know what this is.
We have to talk about before the next episode. But for Hawkeye, it's just, man, it hurts. Like, he's been through so much. Like, and
he lost Natasha?
Yeah, he lost Natasha. Like, and I love how, like, standoffish he is to Kate. Like, and it's not, and you know what I even like more about it? It's not like a traditional standoffish. It's just like, it's like a dismissive, like, I'm trying to tell you, Kate, like, this life is not good.
This sucks.
This is I'm going deaf because I fought with the Avengers.
I don't get paid.
I don't get paid for this, Falcon. I don't get paid for this. Like, this life is horrible. Like, I just want to take my kids and have fun, but I can't. Like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as my name got on that plaque, I signed a death warrant for myself.
That's great. That's a great one. Favorite WTF moment?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's got to be Loki episode 6. Seeing the jaw drop I had, like, when I was in my room and I just ran upstairs. I'm like, is that Jonathan Majors? What are you doing here? Like, that absolute insanity that they pulled the trigger, because I mean, why it worked too is because of WandaVision, because you get your hopes high every single week for WandaVision.
You're like, oh, it's just going to be another variant of Loki at the end of this, right?
I thought it was going to be Richard E. Grant, was just because he died the episode before, so I thought he was going to be He Who Remains, like, old Loki. Like, of course, Loki's the person, because he said, like, Loki's like a cockroach. Like, you're going to survive anything. Like, of course, you would be the last person in the universe, but the swing and the subtle setup, and what also it added a whole bunch of credibility to these shows too. I think that might be the most impressive thing, that like now these shows actually mean something. Like, the TV show in this universe is the start point for the only reason we get What If and Doctor Strange 2 and the whole multiverse saga. Like, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it starts with the first Avengers villain made possibly the last Avengers villain.
Yeah. I could have picked that, but I went a little bit different direction with this. She-Hulk infiltrating Marvel Studios.
Yeah, yep, that's great. That's great. Yep.
It's just absurdity in the best way. We talked about that final episode of She-Hulk, and like that whole episode is bonkers, but her just from, I would say, the moment she stops the action in that final episode, and she's like, wait, this is wrong, I'm fixing this. She goes out into the freaking Disney Plus interface. She breaks it open and she goes into the Marvel Studios thing, and then we meet Kevin for the first time, the robot with the baseball hat. She asks about the X-Men. Mm-hmm. she rewrites her own finale. Mm-hmm. It's
off the rails.
It's crazy. This phase really in like a nutshell. Like, you couldn't do this in phase 1.
Oh, absolutely. People would look at you insane.
But now we can just go full comic book with these things, and I think that's kind of the beauty of phase 4. And a lot of these things is it just, for better, good, bad, or indifferent, it a lot of these things went full comic book, and I think that end of She-Hulk is just the embodiment of that in the best way. Like, this is what the best of this can look like, and hopefully it's something that gets kind of compacted and expanded upon in the Deadpool movie with Wolverine. Like,
you think she's gonna show up in that Deadpool movie?
I hope so.
I have a feeling I'm way more inclined to believe it now. Even if it's for 5 seconds, I think she might be in that movie. Like,
that, the whole tone of that show was just brilliant. So, yeah, man, She-Hulk infiltrating Marvel Studios was just you talk about when Major showed up and Loki dropping your jaw, like, this did the same thing. Like, to me, I was like, what is happening? Like, this is
This piece has a good amount of those moments in here, too. I mean, look at, we can go back to, I mean, Multiverse of Madness has probably I mean, I'm sorry, No Way Home has the king one of all this. Like, No Way Home has the jaw drop piece in it. I mean, even WandaVision has the Evan Peters, infusion into that too, so that was a big one. What else do we got? Shang-Chi fights the dragon. That's pretty cool. I think that's a WTF moment.
Again, just going full comic book.
Yep.
Man, speaking of comic books, your favorite comic book callback?
Mine's I was really trying to get one out of the shows, but mine is it's the frame from that 2018 run on Shuri's Black Panther where she's holding the mask, like literally pulled from the cover of that comic. It's the best comic book callback in this phase, in my opinion. Like, it's funny how, like, one image can speak 1,000 words. Like, that invokes everything that you need to know about what the cast has been through, like what the cast and crew have been through in the real life, and like what she's been through in that universe. Like, it took me everything in my power not to make her my favorite origin in this universe, because
so good.
Because I think it's truly transcendent what Letitia Wright was able to do. Like, I don't think people talk about how incredible her performance was in that movie. Like,
it's so good.
I genuinely think it stands up to Angela Bassett's performance. Like, she really has to do something that a lot of these, funny characters aren't able to do. Like, a lot of funny characters stay in that realm. She had a full evolution as a character. You can't say that for
She's so
for most
different
people.
from the end of the movie, from the beginning. It's so good. Bet you weren't thinking I was going to pick Thor and Love and Thunder for this part, but I did. The deceased carcass of Falagor.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Is mine, and obviously that scene gets a bit of sting taken out of it just because of the movie as a whole. But I think that's the frame, at least, of the original trailer that tricked us when we were like, oh shoot, like, this movie's gonna be like, we're getting the God Butcher. Like, look at this.
You want to talk about a week of Ultron? We got like a week of the God Butcher.
They did the thing from the comic with the big dead God thing.
Yep.
Big dead behemoth.
And then Sif showed up.
It's
God.
It still looks great, and it's a great callback. Like, it's ripped right from the comic book panel. And I mean, Korg's not there in the comic book panel, but he is in this. But yeah, and then Sif's there. But I'm not here to talk about Sif. I'm here to talk about Falagor.
Yeah, it's one of the nicest gods you'll ever meet.
So I just thought that was cool. Like, kind of, it doesn't have the same emotional punch as the Shuri one, but it's still from a comic, which I appreciated.
The horror. God.
Let's do our favorite shot.
Favorite shot. That's a good one. Why don't you go first?
I'm gonna go to your movie, The Eternals. The arrival of Arishem in the Eternals at the end.
Oh, that's sick. That's so
insane.
Sick. Yeah. I really like that one.
It looks so good that you're like, is he real? Did they bring in this giant celestial to film a cameo? Like, how did they get this to look like this? That movie is incredible looking. But him holding the rest, like, whatever group of Eternals he has in his hands. I think it's Cersei,
Kingo, and
the other one.
Cersei, Kingo, and Angelina. Nope. Angelina Jolie's in space.
Is it Phastos?
It is Phastos, yeah, because he stays on Earth with his family. Yep.
Him holding them and the Earth looking like a marble next to him. Like,
it helps the
scale is outrageous.
Helps again. You can't do that in Phase 1.
No,
you can do it now. And it's credible.
Do you remember when we first saw the Celestials in Guardians and we were like, whoa, what? They look awesome. And then the Eternals was like, hold my beer. Yeah. We're going to show you. And I mean, every shot when Arishem shows up is like, whoa.
It's almost like that movie's really well shot.
It's incredibly shot.
Thanks, Chloe.
Like, you're
Great job.
Every shot every time Arishem shows up, you're like, holy moly. Awesome. Like, this is great. Yeah. Like, there's a proper gravitas. And that's what you need when you're talking about the Celestials. Like, you need this to feel important. And that ending when you first see them from the Earth perspective, like when the sky kind of parts and like you see them like in the sky and you're like, holy moly, like, what is happening? So the arrival of proper arrival of Arishem to Earth is staggering. So you go ahead now.
So there's this really cool shot in Moon Knight in episode 4. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's when Mark Spector dies and his body's getting transported, essentially. We still don't know what happened. Is Moon Knight real? Did this show actually happen? That's my, I gotta save it. But yeah, there's where he's like descending and the camera kind of flips as his body's going down. I think that's my favorite shot. I love a good camera flip. It's really great. He's like draped in that gold too. I think it's a really neat trick that they pulled off too. And I think that's a
neat trick, that camera of yours.
Don't do it. That's your favorite line from this phase, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not.
It's something from Jamie Foxx, isn't it? Remember when Jamie Foxx just played himself in Spider-Man No Way Home?
It's so good. Damn. Goddamn heels.
Gotta be watching where you're falling at.
He's like, yeah, I fell into a particle accelerator. Damn. Gotta be watching where you fall. Was that it? Was that all you were gonna say?
Yeah. Mine was also from the Eternals. It was a different shot in the Eternals. It was the beginning of the movie where Cersei hands the kid the knife, and that wide shot's just gorgeous. So
yeah. Let's see. Moving on, please. I was gonna do favorite lore and world building moments. So we always like this category. Bet you didn't think I was going to talk about Black Widow here, but I'm going to. The introduction of the Black Widow network, I thought was really cool. Like I said, I'm trying to talk about everything in this. So Black Widow, the introduction of the Widow network, I thought was really cool, and it really kind of retroactively makes you realize how dangerous Natasha is.
I talked about it. Yeah,
they talk about how they send in this small group of women and they can destabilize entire countries like overnight. Like they can just kill governments like in days, and you're like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it. Remember, it's one of my favorite fights from Phase 4 was, however brief it was Natasha versus all the widows, and my favorite idea from that is like how formidable Natasha is as her own person, because like these people were trained the same training she has, but she was still fighting multiple of them in that room. Like, she truthfully is the Avenger out of, the Black Widows too, and you can tell based off that. So I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with it's a tie. So the TV show one is we've reached the threshold. Like that line itself in Loki is the very reason why maybe any of this is happening, or a lot of this is happening in here. So yeah, that idea that the multiverse cracked open because Sylvie decided to kill He Who Remains and like started, the rest of Marvel, I guess, the rest of the MCU. It's what this whole, 4, 5, 6 phases are. It's the multiverse saga started with that. So I mean, if this is the inception of this whole thing, I feel like that can't go without being said. For the movies, it's Talokan. It's the introduction of this new world, this introduction of Namor. I think it's super cool.
My enemies call me Namor.
And then everybody called him Namor, and then she wondered why he killed her mom. Maybe because you keep calling him his villain name and you didn't call him Kukul Khan. That's my own personal interpretation to that. But yeah, Talokan that scene is gorgeous when they're going down in there. I was humming that song for weeks to come.
It's a great song.
The whole soundtrack is great.
That movie's going to come up when we talk about musical moments for me. Just spoiler alert.
Sure.
Favorite line or dialogue exchange in this phase?
Does it also come? I'm gonna just, because I don't want to go again for Black Panther. I'm gonna go to Wanda's plea to get Vision's body back in WandaVision. Just her line, like
emotional damage.
Yeah, like I just want his body. Like just that alone is just like
that whole scene. Oof. Man.
Elizabeth Olsen is
when she like the callback to Infinity War when she says, "I can't feel you." Dude.
Like, I killed the love of my, like, for nothing. Like, I killed him for nothing. Like, he just immediately erased time, rewinded time right behind. Like, I couldn't do anything.
Uno reverse card, said Thanos. You don't make me draw 4, Scarlet Witch.
How about you, Joff? No, not like this.
Mine, of course, this is where I was going to deploy my Loki card and go to He Who Remains, because this one line, because it's definitely not on purpose, but this one line is so emblematic of basically this entire phase, and I thought that was like retroactively awesome that like I made the connection. It's from He Who Remains when he says, "You can't get into the end until you've been changed by the journey."
Yeah.
That's Marvel Phase 4 in a nutshell.
Yep.
Is that one line.
I love that. That's
I mean, you can cherry pick any quote you want from that episode from him.
Yeah.
And it's probably some of the best dialogue you're going to get.
Yeah.
in this entire phase,
Yeah.
but that one just stuck out to me.
I hope they realize the guy they got to do this, because they chose right. I love how Shakespearean I think this is just Jonathan Majors as an actor himself. Like, I love how much gravitas he brings, but how like He Who Remains just feels like a crackpot that's just on the street that you might walk by, but also the same time like the most dangerous man in the room. Like, that's range to me. Like, that's range that he owns. And like, just seeing the Ant-Man trailers, we're going to see it in a week, and then seeing that, like, that's two completely different characters that he just played in the same phase of movie, like in the same 2-year span. Like, that's insanity that this guy is able to do that.
Yeah, man, yeah, that, like I said, that line just stuck out to me because it feels emblematic of Phase 4, like, just in general.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, he's right, you can't get to the end until you've gone through the journey. And that's what can apply to any of these characters in Phase 4. Let's jump to your favorite action sequence. We maybe have the same one.
Is it from Shang-Chi?
Nope.
Ooh. Go ahead, man.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. John and versus Bucky and Sam in the warehouse. We've talked about this scene, I don't know, 4 or 5 times on this podcast.
I think it's some of the best hand-to-hand well, again, you need to add credibility to these TV shows. So if these TV shows, because WandaVision is, grew from being a nice sitcom to, it got to an MCU third act movie at the end. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier felt so much more personal, and not personal on like an emotional feel level. It felt personal on like an action level. Like, these hits, these blows feel real because these people don't have, crazy powers. Obviously they're super soldiers, but they don't have these insane powers. So that fight is great. That was my show fight in here. It's the setup for it too. Like, I remember like that image of him holding the bloody shield was everywhere for that week, and then it led into that, and like, it's just him going into the warehouse.
I am Captain America.
Right, like the guy, like,
he's cracked.
Yeah, he's cracked. He is cracked. Like, I really could have used that for my favorite shot too, of like when he's kneeling in there too.
Oh, with the light on him.
What do you mean Captain America's kneeling? Oh yeah, when that light's shining through, like, it's great. But that fight is,
and then like, it goes right from him doing like the kneeling, and he's in the light, and then it's time to go to work.
Oh, I love it. He's lost it.
He's cracked.
Yeah. My favorite fight is from Shang-Chi. It's
any of them.
It's any of them. Yeah, it's any of them. I just picked the Death Dealer fight because, again, it did too is like, this is actual. This isn't shaky cam hand to hand that the M's. This isn't a million cuts. Like, we're gonna fight. Like, we're gonna get a stunt coordinator, and we're gonna have hands.
It's
like,
so slick.
Yeah,
the only thing is I wish I had gone longer.
There's some great physicality to that fight. Like, I
don't know how they somehow managed to one up the knife flip from Winter Soldier, which I thought was like the best knife flip in the history of knife flips, right. And then they one upped it with that fight.
Yeah, seemingly it was definitely, and a good thing is your main actor actually fights. Like, that's such a win for them too, and like, you don't have to worry about having to teach. Obviously, you got to teach him the choreography, but you don't have to worry about him understanding like behind like how to fight. Like, he already knows how to fight.
I can't wait to see him do more stuff.
I can't wait to see him fight some of these other people, because I think at some point he's going to have to turn on some of these people, and I think they're going to do a situation where he's going to have to fight like a Bucky or something, and like,
give it to me.
Or he's going to have to fight a Yelena. Like, all right,
let him fight Shuri.
Let him fight. Oh, that would be incredible if he had to fight Shuri.
Give me an Avengers Fight Club.
Where's this whole thing coming from that she hasn't earned any of this? You don't think behind the scenes she knows how to fight? She lives in Wakanda. What do you think's going?
Also, do you not understand what the heart-shaped herb does?
It's like a cleaner super soldier serum. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's pantomime to magic.
Right.
It's basically magic that grants you speed, agility.
Right.
Agility is not...
She was going toe-to-toe with Namor at the end of Wakanda Forever. Like,
and she also, she fought Killmonger for a little bit.
Yeah, she did.
In the beginning, at the end of Black Panther 1. So she can fight. They all can fight. All the women in Wakanda can fight.
Yes.
Did you not watch the What If episode where Angela Bassett goes bananas? All the women in Wakanda can fight.
But yeah, you can shotgun any fight from Shang-Chi, but that fight I just...
The bus.
The bus. Oh yeah, the bus was great. I easily could have picked the bus. The bus was fun. But that Death Dealer fight, there was a lot of pace to that fight too, and there was a lot of movement.
My conceit is I wish it was longer, but there's also a magic in how brief it is.
Because you want more. I need this. I need more of this. I mean, the bus fight does that, and then that does that, and you're like, this is even when you and I think this is the most forgivable third act, like big CGI third act. I think Shang-Chi in the entire universe has the most forgivable one because
it's fair.
It's like an anime like he's fighting his father with the 10 rings, but like it feels credible. It feels real. Like it feels like this is actually happening. So
yeah, man, that's so good. Let's talk. Can we do? Let's do the fun one.
Let's do some fun ones.
So the one that we coined, I forget, was it the last category thing that we did where we introduced this category?
It was Andor
of our favorite NPC character. So we discussed this pretty heavily before I was originally going to pick the citizenry of Westview.
Yes, because they are video game NPCs.
Quite literally. Down to being controlled by one person.
Yes.
Agatha Harkness is you as a Sims player.
Yes. I mean, Wanda's more of you as a Sims player. Agatha's if you were playing like Grand Theft Auto. Or is it the other way around?
And then I settled upon, in the true spirit of the favorite NPC award, because this person doesn't even have a name. He's not even seen. He is a voice in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. He's the FBI agent, or whoever he is, from the CIA or the police. Wherever he's from, who knows? Give me a spinoff of this guy.
Yep.
They barge into the warehouse, and this guy just, oh shit! She got an Iron Man suit! And then he gets presumably blasted by Ironheart. And we never see him again.
True NPC fashion. You love to see it. Yes.
Because she did have an Iron Man suit. He was right.
Yep.
He's the character of, if you were controlling Ironheart, he's the first guy that comes into the room.
Yeah. That's great. You know who the greatest NPCs in this phase are, right? It's the people that half of them weren't even in the original cut of the movie, and that's the Illuminati are the best NPCs in this whole universe. Because they're interchangeable. You could have thrown me any character from a Marvel comic and replaced them, and it wouldn't have mattered. The true definition of an NPC, of something that won't influence or dictate the narrative in any way, and they didn't really do anything besides get mollywopped by the Scarlet Witch. So the best NPC out of them, though, is Mordo. We will judge when my friends get back, which led me into my greatest joke I've ever had. They're not coming back, Chief. They're done for it. They pulled an R. Kelly. They're fighting for their lives. I'm fighting for my life.
They all have, just...
NPCs are what? They're disposable, and the Illuminati was the definition of disposable. Both narratively and in-universe disposable.
They're all just so one-dimensionally flat that it's hilarious,
You can tell John Krasinski because I genuinely think, you give him time to get into Reed Richards, I think he can embody the feel like that. He's the father figure, but cold. He has this cold nature. John Krasinski was just reading from a prompter.
Why is Jim treating the wizard harshly?
I just watched that episode of The Office yesterday too. That's funny. But yeah, there's just none of them have
Captain Carter says I can do this all day.
Is the coolest one Black Bolt because he doesn't say anything? And he also has the coolest death?
What mouth?
Imagine we have to rank the deaths of the Illuminati members. Reed Richards went out the worst.
He got just string cheesed.
Just turned into SpaghettiOs. It's not cool.
Captain Marvel's just a bitch for no reason.
She's mad cocky.
So cocky.
You're gonna die in 7 minutes. You gotta know who you are.
Oh man, the Illuminati being NPCs is just the best. So we have here, I guess we're just going to move into the meme ones before we get to the ending ones. Best Expo Dump character. Do we have the same one?
Who's yours?
I'm picking Sandman.
Oh,
I stayed with this. This man, this man just explains the plot.
Because you know what, and you know what they do? They phone it in, and Thomas Hayden Church literally phoned it in.
He takes us through the end of Spider-Man 1, and then he transitions. He has a transition piece where he's like Green Goblin impaled by his own glider, blah 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 blah, and then. You, Doc Ock, played by Alfred Molina.
Character actor Alfred Molina. God.
Drowned in the river. And then me. I was in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. What happened to me? It's ambiguous. So did he... I don't know how the spell works. I don't know. I still don't know to this day. I thought they were getting taken from when they were dead. Is that the truth? Nobody knows.
Because Strange says they're all destined to die fighting Spider-Man.
But
Sandman just turned into sand.
Away. Did he kill himself in that scene?
Oh, no.
That's my new theory.
Is that what we were supposed to infer from that?
Oh, he took his own life? I've been watching too many movies.
By turning into sand?
Yeah.
So, it's Sandman explaining the plot of the first two Maguire movies to everybody in the room. Incredible. What was yours?
It's got to be Arishem, right? From the Eternals. No, I'm sorry, I gotta pick my boy Wong. He's
the king of exposition.
He's the king of exposition. He did it so much. He was in 3 different projects delivering exposition. He was in Shang-Chi delivering exposition.
Yeah.
He's Magic Nick Fury now.
He's in No Way Home, but I don't think he delivers exposition.
Yeah, he does. He talks about
not doing the spell.
The borders of the reality. Shut up, man. Remember that party? He's like, no, and Trey's like, exactly. We're gonna end the universe.
He does heaps of it. Multiverse of Madness.
Yep. And then he does more. He does more heaps of it in She-Hulk.
This is the Wong Award for character exposition.
Yeah, actually, I take back the big theme of this phase is Wong.
He's great.
Yeah, he is great.
And you were going to kill him in Multiverse of Madness.
He was supposed to die in Multiverse of Madness.
That's crazy. Because then we would have never got him in Madison.
And then we wouldn't have... Yeah. Come on! Now, that might be the best line in the whole phase. I don't even want to know.
Oh, man. Do we have any more meme ones, or was that it? Were those the only 2?
Is there any more meme ones?
I don't think so. Oh, man. That's... hilarious.
We need more meme ones. Maybe we put out a Twitter poll and get more meme
that NPC one is still the best.
It's great. It will never fail to be funny.
She got an Iron Man suit. Go.
What's another universe out there? Who's the best Transformers universe NPC?
Oh, Jesus.
Why is it Starscream?
I was gonna say fucking what's his name? The general guy.
No. Is it John Turturro? Or does he have too much to do with the plot? He's too
little important.
Man. Oh, it might be Alan Tudyk in the second one.
Yeah.
He's just the butler.
Oh, man. All right. Let's go back. Let's get back to the real ones. Favorite musical moment?
It's the final swing in No Way Home.
It's good.
Giacchino brings his A game. Now we know whether it be, doing the score or directing it, but it just, again, it encompasses everything of what I felt for that Spider-Man. We talked about the tone shift in that movie. As soon as they do that dolly zoom and his spider sense goes up, that movie's different than the first half of that movie.
Leave it in, John Watts.
You can maybe dispose of the first half of that movie just to get to that that half of the movie. But that final swing, it just I found myself I don't understand. I found myself emotional from the last part because it's this character that you grow up with and one of the most famous superheroes of all time and this is it. He finally is evolved. And what did he evolve in? He evolved in the most famous connected universe of all time too. So
yeah, pretty good. I'm going with the Alone montage in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The Burna Boy song Alone.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a great montage of after Namor attacks and Queen Ramonda's died.
Oh yeah.
And the song starts with when Shuri's alone in her lab, when she has that aha moment, thinking like the bracelet can recreate the heart-shaped herb, and then the song kicks in and you see these various characters recovering from Namor's attack. Like Okoye goes back to Aneka and to like recruit her back to the like what would become the the Midnight Angels. You have Riri designing the Ironheart suit, like ripped basically straight out of Iron Man 1 of her building the suit. You have Shuri working on the herb. You have M'Baku overseeing the relocation of the Wakandans, all while this song is playing. And then obviously it crescendos when, you know, they have that beautiful kind of, it's purposeful, like bright color of T'Challa's DNA like on the screen, and it keeps turning red, and then like the song fades out when it finally turns green, and like Shuri has that moment of not only did she recreate the herb, but like this is what she could have used to save her brother. Like it was like that moment, like culminating for her, like I could have saved my brother with this. Right. Like, and she's just kind of overcome by like the emotion, and like that song is beautiful in that moment. And yeah, that section, that montage is so moving. Yeah, I think what's great about what we just talked about is how I picked a score, but you picked like a soundtrack piece. Like I think that's something that's beautiful. I mean, why movies are so incredible for me is because movies encompass all the major art forms are encompassed into movies. So I think I think that might be the perfect pick out of that. It just, what's music supposed to do? It's the same thing that cinematography does. It's the same, music does the same thing. Like it's supposed to enhance the feeling that you're having in that situation. And I think that's a testament to what the wherewithal, I mean, even in that scene, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, like even the camera work, like I love the way they open that scene, like that out of focus shot where she's walking into the lab and then she's just like, it's clarity. Like, all right, now I know what to do. Like I have all the pieces, but like I needed clarity in myself. Like I lost all these people, but now I finally know like what my I do need to ascend to be the Black Knight. Like they need me right now. Yeah, and I love, like I said, I just love the transitions to all these other touchstone characters, like recouping themselves, like Okoye getting back to being in the Dora Milaje and creating the Midnight Angels, and M'Baku kind of overseeing the relocation of the people to the Jabari land, which if you go back to the first movie, never would have been a thing. Nope. Right. You have Riri building the Ironheart suit because she was the closest one to like Ramonda when she died. Yeah. Like she was right there, and now she feels a sense of purpose. Like I owe it to the queen. She took me in. Yeah. People were trying to kill me, and she took me in right away. Yeah. So and she's doing the Tony Stark, like banging on the metal. Cuts the heart out of the metal, builds the Ironheart suit. Like her and Shuri working together on the schematics. It's one of the perfect scenes in this in that movie. Like that movie's spectacular. Favorite scene? Oof, this is a tough one. My favorite scene, so I will go to, let me try to find it because I didn't space any of these, so now I can find it. Right at the top. I mean, I guess my favorite TV show scene would probably have, that's tough. You gotta do better, Senator. Nope. That's not it. I mean, my favorite TV show scene might be, it might come from Miss Marvel, to be honest with you. It might be, it might be in episode 5. It might come from Miss Marvel. It might be just her saving her great-grandmother. Yeah. And just kind of, that sense of purpose that Kamala feels too. I think that's a really good scene from the TV shows. Like, I think anytime these shows hit those emotional beats, that's usually when it cuts great. You know what? I'll rescind that. I'll add one back in. My favorite scene in the TV show might be the ascension of the Scarlet Witch inside of WandaVision, like where like the Mind Stone breaks open and then like the Scarlet Witch starts to descend down, like draped in that yellow, like the silhouette. I think so sick. So it's awesome. And it's just like, that's when we were questioning, is this the villain of this thing? Like, is this the villain of this whole phase is going to be her? So yeah, that might be my favorite scene in here. Like that whole episode 8, I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. They did like a clip show inside of a clip show. Term. Yeah. So yeah, I thought looking at her life, but that specifically, like, and again, the same thing with Hawkeye, how much she's been through. Like, she's been through a heck of a lot. I'll talk about her in a second. And then, for me, it's the second Spider-Man Green Goblin fight on the Statue of Liberty, because the first fight is so visceral, and you really see like him get his ass kicked really for like the first time. And Goblin's just a rampaging psychopath, just slamming him through walls. But that second fight, he fights so differently from any other time we've seen him. He wants to kill him. He wants to kill Norman in that moment, and it like him landing those punches and putting the dents in the metal is, the physicality of the emotion of the physicality is palpable.
That's a perfect way to put it.
In that scene, and then right when he's got the glider in his hands and Norman's just like cackling because like he doesn't care. Like this is what he wanted. He wanted this to happen. Like he wanted to be killed in this way. And then Toby stepping in and stopping him, going back to like the scene in the lab when, gotta cure all of them, right? Like gotta help them all. That's what we do. Right. And then, obviously deceitful Green Goblin stabbed Toby in the back, and then, he's dealt with. But that scene is so, and I don't think there's any music behind it.
There's like a subtlety, and there's like a subtle piece to it, like a crescendo, but it's very subtle. Do you have a TV show favorite scene? Because I forgot to talk about my movie favorite scene.
Yeah. If I just had to pick one, just one that really stands out, I really like Sylvie and Loki at the lake.
By the lake?
Yeah. It's when, I love a good, like, we talked about this when we talked about The Last of Us, like, that true, like, breakthrough moment between two characters that, like, don't really trust each other. And that moment felt so earned, like, between those two characters, even though they're variants of each other. It still felt like the trick that show pulled off with those two is cannot go understated.
Stephanie DiMartino had a big job to do in that too.
Like the fact that they pulled that off, like a believable kind of like quasi love story between two variants, and it worked.
Right.
Like to the point where like you felt it when she pushed him through that portal at the end and like basically severed herself from him. Like you felt that and you wouldn't have thought that going in. So yeah, that would probably be mine from TV.
I like it.
What's your movie one?
It's the great power scene in No Way Home. Yep. It's incredible. We finally get the dynamic between the three, and it's just how, and again, it's off the back of Aunt May's death is what makes it even better. And I think something we talked about was like, as much as we love Andrew Garfield and, the classic Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire was there, Tom had to put up, a performance in himself, and he might have still inside of that put up the best performance in there too. Like he had to be so broken and so vulnerable here too. And like, that was the last, like I talked about it with The Last of Us, you get the what, and now it's like, you get the what, like I know what I need to do. And like, I see it, but like, you need the why. And like, that scene is like, it's the comic line. Like it's the great power and great responsibility. And like, it couldn't be, it's, Peter 2 had to get told it, Toby's Peter had to get told it from Uncle Ben. And like, Andrew's Peter had to get, again, told it from Uncle Ben, but like, he had to get it told it by like his, by his aunt that passed away, but it got personified by these people that had been through the thing he had already been through. Like they experienced that greatest loss, and I think that speaks volumes. It flushes out, what these Spider-Men have been doing and kind of, where they're at in their lives too. And I mean, you can't just deny how cool it is, just the three of them together, but, tackling the emotional side of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man 2. I think that's what made it truthfully special.
Yeah, that's an incredible, and in that scene in particular, they all bring it to that scene. Like, man, when Toby's talking about like when his uncle died and like the emotion in his voice, Andrew Garfield obviously sells talking about Gwen just amazingly well. Yeah, man, that scene is really great. Let's go with our favorite hero from Phase 4.
Wait, canceled? I'm kidding. My favorite hero is on the TV show front. It's Miss Marvel as my favorite hero.
We have the same one. Yeah.
She's we've talked about it at length. How great. Why can't I remember?
Aman Vellani?
Why can't I remember Aman Vellani's name? How great she is. How natural she is to this. I mean, even like Iman Vellani herself, you can tell that she's a fan. Again, somebody that grew up with these movies and like now are placed inside of this universe too. Like speaks volumes to her performance, but she's so charismatic. She understands it, and it's the representation piece, in my opinion, is why she's so important to this too. Because like that sect of people that are like, we don't need this. Like there's people that need this, and like that's so important to so many people. And I think she's got a lot of weight on her shoulders, but I think she's handling it quite well.
Yeah, we had the same one. I also picked her.
Yeah.
Not just in TV shows or movies, just in general. She was great. She was transcendent as far as introducing a new character to the universe. This is how you want to do it, in my opinion. And yeah, you said everything so perfectly about her already.
And my favorite, it's so tough because my favorite hero, I really want to say it's Spider-Man, but I'm gonna have to go with Shuri as Black Panther. Is probably my favorite hero in here, because she's not so clear cut and dry, good, bad. Like she's got her own things that she needs to work on, and like she just went through the most traumatic losses of her life. Like she wanted like her father, and then her brother, and then her mother. Like she's gone through the work, and now she has to be the leader of a nation, and now she has to be the Black Panther. I just love how personal her story is, and how hard and tough she had to be. It's just, again, that performance that Letitia Wright puts up, I think it's nothing short of extraordinary for a universe like this. It's something that I don't think we should take for granted. That's what I'll say about it. It's special. For the hero itself, it's special.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's amazing. Totally agreed. And then on the flip side, with every great hero, you have great villains. So who's your favorite villain?
My enemies don't call me, they call me Namor. It's the easy choice in my opinion. It's Namor. Incredible. Tenoch Huerta is just it's coming in and putting up numbers immediately and selling yourself is formidable. That's here villains have to. I mean, just from the opening sequence. I mean, just the way they drape him in that darkness when he. Oh man, my favorite NPC should have been Lake Bell. Man, that's who it should have been from Wakanda Forever.
She counts. She would count.
Yeah, that's perfect NPC. But yeah, he's incredible. He's physical, but he also is understandable. He's credible. He's got so many intangibles that you want out of a great villain. And Ryan Coogler knows how to craft the villains, but we need the actors to personify that, and Tenoch Huerta does that incredibly.
I'm gonna go all the way back to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Wen Wu.
Yes.
Kind of in a weird way, the standard bearer for what the villains of Phase 4 were gonna look like as a whole. When I remember when we saw that movie, we were like, wow, like that was a villain with a lot of humanity.
You know what I love about him too? He still was a villain, if that makes sense. Like most of the time, like we play in that gray area and we consider that a great villain, but I think it's cut from like, the Heath Ledger mold of like, you're still a villain. Like I'm still not a good person, but like I have wants, just like everybody else, I have wants and needs too. And my wants and needs, I want my wife back. Like I want my family back together and I want my wife back. And he was full commitment and full conviction in his beliefs too. And he still made the noble sacrifice for his son at the end too. So he's still a family man. Like he still has all those intangibles, but because I guess he's just the MCU's Genghis Khan. I guess that's the way they played it too.
Yeah.
So like he still is like one of the most. He was one of the most
warmonger. Yeah,
he's one of the most dangerous men in the entire world. So I think that's pretty cool. That's a great pick.
Yeah, it's really great. And then we'll start wrapping up here. We'll go to just your overall favorite character in this whole Phase 4.
I'm gonna go with Sam Wilson.
Nice.
So
you don't have to do better.
No, yeah. He's 2. So the legacy bearers. He's number 2. Who did I say? It's Kate, it's him, and it's Shuri are the 3. The legacy bear, like the big 3 legacy bearers that need to physically take somebody's mantle.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Mackie deserves his flower. I mean, he's from Phase 2. Like, he's been in this thing for a while.
Yeah, man.
Been in this thing since 2014, and then he came back in 2021. Like, it's the first time he gets the lead, and, like, I just love how, he, again, needs to deliver this. He needs to deliver a nuanced performance. Like, he can't just give it all in one scene. Like, it might come off too foreboding, but, like, what I love about it is just how much, the ask of what he's trying to do. And I love how personal, because it's like, it's an initiative type of thing. Like, nobody's asking him to take the shield, but that's the point. Like, certain people don't want him to pick up the shield for certain reasons. And like, the show doesn't shy away from it too. Like, you know, whatever the social justice thing you think you're talking, that's real. Like, this is real things that they're trying to deal with. Like, that's real. Some people won't like somebody like him picking up that shield, and they deal with it. I mean, it doubles down once you get into the Isaiah Bradley equation of it too. Piece of that equation. Like, it's just all those things. But I think Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson handles all of those too. I love how he feels correct as Captain America. Like, that suit reveal at the end, like, I remember when that episode came out, like, I felt good. Like, I genuinely felt good seeing him as Captain America with the wings, like, and being proficient as Captain America, not the Scott Lang, like, bumbling idiot. Like, he was proficient because he'd seen Steve do it, but he knows he's a good person himself. And he practiced, like, he earned that. Like, he really earned that shield. And if even Bucky saw it too, like, this is yours. Like, Steve gave it to, if Steve's the most noble person in the universe, that the only other person that can, like, he gave you this shield for a reason.
Yeah. Super good. I love that so much. Let me talk to you about Wanda Maximoff. From the jump of Phase 4, like, from episode 1 of WandaVision in Phase 4, there was just something about that character and how Elizabeth Olsen played her where I was just in. I was sold, like, immediately. Like, just from episode 1 of WandaVision all the way through when we saw her again in Multiverse of Madness, like, that, the fact that they pulled the switch and made her a villain after everything we had seen her go through. From Age of Ultron, losing her brother, to Infinity War, you know, losing Vision, like, with Civil War in between, like, fostering that relationship, to her returning in Endgame and almost killing Thanos, like, single-handedly. Like, there was really no one left in the MCU that you wanted to root for more to have happiness than her. Right. So for them to then pull the rug out and give her a villain arc is crazy.
You remember when it was we were like, wait a minute, she's just the villain of this movie. Like, you know, the theories are running around everywhere, and then
because that's how any other superhero movie would have done it. Like, her and Doctor Strange would have been at odds for a bit, and then a bigger threat would have emerged. She was the bigger threat at the end of the day, and the fact that they pulled that off in such a compelling way. That scene where she goes to in WandaVision, when she goes to the empty lot where the house was supposed to be, is just crazy.
Kills you on the inside. It hurts.
It hurts. And then, like, you don't want anything more than to, like, root for her. And then she just goes full villain mode, but, like, with the most noble intentions, like, for herself. Like, she just wants her kids. Like, who can't relate to that? And then she goes at the end of Multiverse of Madness, and I just can't. The reason why she's my favorite character in this is because that moment when they do decide to redeploy her into these movies is going to feel like the biggest deal. Like,
because I think it's leading to, like, if she was the mystical piece of, like, she's the most notable, like, you know, she's this ancient force, like, we're going to probably need her against the multiversal force like that.
Yeah. So, like, when she returns, whenever that is, who knows? It could be years down the line. Like, I would hold on to it. Like, I know we speculated, like, maybe she'll pop up in Agatha Coven of Chaos. I wouldn't even do that. I would hold it for as long as you can, and then boom, like, when you need her the most, she reemerges, like, to get herself back on the lunchbox. And she said to Dr. Strange.
She's on, you know, she's on the Hal Jordan run with him being Parallax and then him coming back for Green Lantern Rebirth. Like, that's exactly what she's on. Like, she did the most egregious things that can happen, and, like, now she has to sell herself back as, like, that's gone. Like, I don't have the Darkhold anymore. Like, I'm not influenced by any, like, I'm the Wanda that helped us save the universe again. They're like, and some of the heroes are like, no,
I have the powers of the Scarlet Witch.
Right, like, no, and some of the heroes are like, no, like, you're psychotic. Like, you almost killed how many people just to get like, your sons back that aren't real. Yeah. So that's a good one. I forgot to mention John Walker for my villain for the TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking through the TV shows. I did realize the TV shows have a villain problem. I genuinely think they do. I don't think they have anything cohesive. Hawkeye might be the biggest the biggest culprit of that.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Falcon, in terms of, and it's not a villain. Like you said, villain or antagonist. Like John Walker's the antagonist, but he's not a bad person. He's just
quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah, he's and you know what that show does well in episode 2, and immediately like John, like for us as an audience, we're like, all right, but he's not Chris Evans, so F this guy. Like it's not that simple. Like they're giving you all the intangibles that he's done to be this good person. Like, but again, that serum just like his good-naturedness is also his fatal flaw. Like him wanting to be the best at anything essentially is what, turned him into the version of, Captain America that he turned into, because like how that, I should have chose that for my line. Like you made me, like when he's talking, like scene, I followed your mandates. Like I'm doing exactly what you told me to do. And like now you guys want to persecute me for this? It's not fair. Like I think that's what makes him so
yeah, he's right.
That's what makes him so dynamic as a character. And I mean, Wakanda Forever kind of doubles down to like the dark nature, which I think they're going to explore. And I think the proxy for that is going to be Thunderbolt Ross, of like how evil the American government is in this universe. Like, they are truthfully like what does Val say? Like, he's like, you want a world where vibranium's, and she's like, I dream about that day. Like Ross is like, oh, I want that super soldier serum more than I want any, like, those are the people you need, and John's just a product of that. Yeah. And I think the Thunderbolts is really going to attack that head on. Yeah. So I didn't want to leave John Walker out of this. I think Wyatt Russell, I can't believe Wyatt Russell got death threats for playing a character in it. It's sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. Favorite performance?
I picked Elizabeth Olsen for the best. I don't think it's
dream walking, you hypocrite.
Yes, it's the best line. Is the best. Yeah, she has possibly the best character, but it's also I don't think it's an if. I think it is the best performance in this whole phase.
She hits every note. Every single note.
She hits her comedy in WandaVision.
She's funny.
She's funny. She's sarcastic. Like she's strong. She's vulnerable. Like she hits everything you want as a character. She hits the hero. She hits the villain. Like she hits all of those beats. But again, this phase also blurred the lines and a lot of things too. So this phase lived in gray. I mean, Werewolf by Night's another good example. Like Werewolf by Night's killing what I assume are nefarious people, but he's killing like henchmen. Like probably not great, because I don't think those people are maybe horrible people, but like this phase, I mean, it dealt with a lot of Bucky's depression too, post him, getting the the tooling, like the retooling out of his head. Like Bucky also like went through a lot of bad stuff. Like Natasha too. Like how did Taskmaster get made? Because Natasha almost was gonna kill this girl. Yeah. All these people aren't these. Shang-Chi is another great example. Like he was ready to burn down the world for his dad. Like these people aren't amazing people. Steven and like the multiverse chart of Stevens are like the odds are in the favor of him being bad in the universe that you pick. Like these people aren't great. Yeah. And, like I like this phase deals with that.
Yeah, me too.
What's your favorite MacGuffin?
Oh no, it's the Darkhold. The Darkhold and the Book of Nazi.
I was gonna say the antithesis.
The antithesis of the Darkhold.
Anytime I get to say the antithesis, it's fun.
My favorite performance, all these characters and these actors are great, but there's only one actor that is the patron saint of the podcast. Andrew Garfield is incredible to the point that he almost hijacks that movie from Tom Holland at the end. It gets really, really tricky. Just a tremendous, and I mean, we called the shot before the movie called out. Like he's about to have like the y'all must have forgot performance when you're like, oh shoot, like he's Spider-Man. Like
so good. He's ridiculously good.
When you talk about like a basketball thing, like PER, like his PER is like 40. When you compare like the minutes versus the output,
his plus minus is like a 23. Like he just came in an immediate like. He's like like when somebody comes off the bench and hits like 4 threes in a row and everybody's going nuts. That's exactly what he did.
It's crazy how good he is.
That audience reaction when he came in, speaks volumes to that too. But I mean, I like to think that we're the cause for this.
Yeah, we did this.
Yes, we did this.
He's so good. just like he doesn't have a subpar scene.
Yo.
Every scene he's in is incredible. It's an astonishing success rate of his scenes. So Andrew Garfield, man, is just that guy. Give him every award. Best director.
Daniel Destin Cretton it was incredibly tough not to pick Chloe Zhao for this, but it's Daniel Destin Cretton because he understands a couple things. He understands the superhero genre, but he didn't do it to the point of cheesy. He understands hand-to-hand combat, which I think is going to be important for some of these. And I mean, the biggest thing that I'll say for them, there's a reason why he got that Kang Dynasty. That's the easiest thing that I can say about him. Like, there's a reason he got that movie. Yep. Like, Shang-Chi might have been like the heat check movie, like what is this? This is great movie of this phase. Like, I think that was probably the most surprising movie of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Of this phase.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
That's that came out and people were like, wait, this movie's actually fire. Like, this is cool.
Yeah.
So and even, down to the other side, like his emotions. Like, I think he was handling a lot of, these emotional scenes well. And, he just crafted this new lens in the MCU, which I thought was awesome too. So I don't think that should go without saying that I think he did an incredible job, and I'm really glad he got that Kang Dynasty movie. He knows how to handle, and like I said, he knows how to handle those big fights too, and I think that's a big reason why they chose him too. Like, whatever this big Kang fight, because I think what that movie might end up being is like the multiversal war is gonna like break out in Kang Dynasty, and then the Avengers are gonna show up themselves. So I think he's going to, helm what that's going to look like too. So I think that's a great choice.
Yeah. Ryan Coogler.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, when you talk
probably
about...
the right choice.
No, I think your choice is more than valid, but when you pair what he did with this movie with the weight of everything that had happened leading up to it, like we talked about it, this movie was impossible.
Yep.
Like, in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's passing, like to do what he did and not just do the movie, but like to galvanize that crew.
Yep.
Because that's ultimately, that's also part of a director's job is you need, get your ducks in a row and like get the crew to buy into your vision.
He's leading. That's what directors do. Great directors lead. I mean, it goes down to, what's that line that Namor gives them? Like, only the most broken people can become great leaders.
And it comes down to the goodwill that he fostered in the first one. Like, he fostered an environment of family with that crew. And he took that as far as he could take it with Wakanda Forever. Like, that movie was impossible. It was touching. It was tasteful. In lesser hands it could have went
south
really wrong. They handled the whole Chadwick T'Challa thing as well as I think it possibly could have been handled.
Like, what else were you going to do? Like, that was the best way that they could have handled it.
Like, infusing Chadwick's real life circumstances into the T'Challa story, is just, and then doing what he did with these characters. I mean,
he pulled out the best performances out of these characters too, and out of these actors as well.
Angela Bassett did it on her own, but the first Marvel actor to be nominated for an Oscar, like, he fostered that with what he did with Queen Ramonda in this, and to bring that kind of performance out of a tremendous actor like Angela Bassett, and to get she was so good that she's nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. And I think the more impressive one is to get that performance out of Letitia Wright too. And I mean the big thing, and you said, like, they're hurting. Like, it's gotta hurt going to set every single day. Like, every day you have to deal with that this person's not here and you have to make this movie. And, at the end of the day, we said some things are bigger than this. And that's, again, why we need movies. Like, when we need art. Like, art immortalizes too, and I think this movie immortalized Chadwick Boseman, and that doesn't come without Ryan Coogler. So.
Yeah. And then we're down to the final two. So your favorite show of the Disney Plus era of Phase 4.
Oh, man, what is my favorite show? Let me find it. And my favorite show that I don't know why I'm looking. It's Loki. It's the coolest show.
We have the same one.
It's the coolest show in here. It's so freaking cool. I love the production design of Loki. There's like this weird aura around it too that couples with, Tom Hiddleston and stuff. I easily could have picked Tom Hiddleston had the best performance in this universe,
yeah,
too.
man.
That scene where
kind of goes understated because of how good he's been over.
And how long he's been there, too.
Yeah.
And
this might have been his finest hour as Loki.
And, it shows a lot of, growth on, Marvel's behalf and Kevin Feige's behalf to be like, all right, these villains are not just villains, like, they're people and beings. Like, they still have, things they need to achieve and things they want and, wants and needs. That's what makes a good villain. So, that scene where he sees his whole life and he just starts tearing up, I just love it because, again, it adds another layer to, sympathizing with these villains. What's the thing that triggers him? It's not anything. It's even that death by Thanos. He's surprised, but the thing that really gets him is his mom. This woman that didn't birth him or anything like that. That's his soft spot that he always has too. So there's and he even gets down to he's like, I don't enjoy hurting people. He breaks down to Mobius. I don't enjoy it, but you got to think, who's my brother? My brother's the almighty Thor. People never looked at me as this person that can rule or lead anybody. They just looked at me as this outcast, and I played into that my whole life, and I needed it to survive. So
yeah, we have the same one. I was also going to pick Loki, but I mean, honorable mention to Ms. Marvel, which we glowed about when we finished it. I mean, that show was incredible. From go, that pilot episode is flawless as far as an episode 1 goes. It sets the tone immediately for what you're going to be in for. She-Hulk was great. Moon Knight was great. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was great. I think on the whole, this was pretty good as far as the test drive, which is essentially what this was. It was the first time they'd ever done TV for the MCU.
And there was a stigma around connecting, I guess are people going to watch, because this is something that people are going to have to pay for, monthly, are going to have a subscription to. It worked. Maybe you give a little credit to the Mandalorian. Maybe you slide them a 5 under the table. But,
I think so, yeah.
But this is the biggest universe. This is the biggest live action universe in human history. So, you don't get that without having the universe to back on it. But WandaVision started it, and it was just all right, these shows are canon, and big things can happen in these shows.
Yeah. And then last but not least, your favorite movie of this phase.
This was the toughest one I had to answer in here, I think. I think I got a lot of ones that I like. I was really impartial to Shang-Chi. I thought that might have been my favorite movie that I can throw on, I think, is Shang-Chi. Eternals, for me, you know how I feel about it. I think it should get an honorable mention, but I think my favorite movie out of this it's probably Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Yep.
I was trying to shy away from it. It's everything you try to do as making movies. I don't care if you're, the boom operator down to Brian Coogler himself, or, Letitia Wright or Angela Bassett, whoever you are, it's what you try to do as making movies, right? That's what that movie was to me for Marvel. Was all the reasons you go into there and you want to make these, you want to tell an emotional story that means something, and that's going to mean something for a while to come, and that's what they did. And again, that's the toughest task you can ask for.
Yeah.
As artists, the absolute tallest task you can ever. And again, they lost their friend. That's the biggest. They lost this guy that was holding this on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And to capitalize and to deliver. And deliver effectively and not deliver anything cheesy and give us something emotional. This switch up that I'm seeing now it's crazy. None of this was being said while the movie was out. And it's the people are just want to be different, but I just don't I'll entertain some things. I can't entertain this. How emotional this movie was and how this makes you feel. I can't believe that. That's how you genuinely feel. Unless you hate everything.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it again, a couple of days ago, and it's just from jump, you're just watching something that's a little bit different and a little bit more special than what we'd gotten in the rest of this phase. This movie stands on its own in just an impressive way. I mean, all of these movies that we got in this phase do something just a little bit different from all the others. I mean, you get the kind of Shang-Chi kind of big action heavy kind of movie. You got Spider-Man No Way Home, which may go down as like one of the best popcorn kind of flicks ever. I mean, talk about highest of highs, like pop moments, like crowd popping moments, like that movie's gonna give you those in spades. Black Widow was a cool little spy thriller kind of movie, but what Black Panther did was just totally different from everything else that this phase delivered. That it, to me, even though it's the last one that came out, it's still the most impressive to me. Like, I watched I didn't rewatch all of them going into this, but I rewatched probably like half of them. I rewatched Shang-Chi, I rewatched Black Widow, I rewatched Spider-Man, and I rewatched Black Panther, and I rewatched The Eternals also. None of them made me feel the way Black Panther did. Yep.
And it's a feel, right? That's what you want out of movies. You want to feel something when you leave.
Yeah, it's what I've said before about how Avatar made me feel. Like that thing, like I couldn't quite explain what it was, but I knew what it was. With Black Panther, I knew what it was, but I knew none of the other ones made me feel it.
Right.
So, man, that's Phase 4. Honorable mention to stuff that we maybe didn't talk about as much. The Guardians Holiday Special.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We both liked quite a bit.
And Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night, we glowed about, so you can go back and listen to that episode.
Werewolf by Night might be the inception of, a big piece of Marvel for Phase 5 and 6. That a lot of people are going to love.
Give me more of those special presentations.
Giacchino, I don't get from... The only thing I'll allow you to do is the Batman score. Besides, can we get into it? How did he not get nominated for best... best score?
It's
and
nuts.
How did Greg Fraser get ignored for best cinematography?
It's
crazy.
Nuts. I'm telling you, something weird happened with the Batman. Like, I don't know if they forgot about it. What happened?
I think it's the Christopher Nolan in the room is like people immediately were like, well, it's not the Dark Knight. Who cares? Like, who cares? Like, this is like an art house superhero movie. Like, is that not freaking cool?
Yeah, it's bizarre what happened with the Batman. Man.
We will not have it,
I feel like as much as I want to talk about other stuff, we're at like 2:20.
Jeez, yeah. Let's wrap it up. We don't need to talk about what we've been doing.
We'll have plenty of time for that probably next week. Hopefully, because there's going to be a ton of trailers. But
jeez, yeah, Super Bowl Sunday. My request to review Remember the Titans was shot down by Kang the Conqueror himself. So
yeah, we're going to get a ton of trailers. Obviously,
Flash movie
for Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously, is a big time for these movie studios to put out trailers. So we're going to talk about all the trailers we get, and then do a little preview for Ant-Man, because it'll be out that week. But until then, you can follow us over on the Twitters at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram
at the Project Infinite Pod.
You can check us out on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts. Give us a download. Give us a like. Give us a review. Reviews are great.
Yep.
Yeah. Those Last of Us episodes did very well.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
So thank you to everybody who downloaded those.
Appreciate you.
Especially if you downloaded the second one, because it was just the first one again before I fixed it.
Yeah, wait a minute, this is the same thing. That was Doctor Strange when he went through the multiverse the first time and he saw himself. It's like, wait a minute, that's just the same thing.
I am me.
Yeah, I am me. Yeah, it was the first time he saw himself, but it's not The Last of Us.
Oh no, we didn't even talk about it at length this week, and you still did that to me. But yeah, thank you for everybody for that.
Yeah, but we gotta go, man.
Yeah, we gotta
play the hits. Play the hits, Court. Play the hits.
We do. Yeah,
play the stuff that keeps me on the show.
We do gotta go. So from me, from the
careful, man.
Holy moly, have I ever had a more diverse?
Yes.
Man.
This can really go great for you. It can really go badly for you, so.
No.
I love putting this pressure, because there really is no pressure, but it's funny having to navigate and be careful about this.
There's so many different characters to choose from. From the...
Wong. I felt it.
He cut me off. I was gonna say the reformed Blonsky of the podcast.
Oh man, of everybody, there's like a billion characters in Phase 4. You picked Blonsky of everything.
I was gonna say John Krasinski of the podcast.
You couldn't give me like Daredevil. You couldn't give me Matt. He's back.
Daredevil was back. I think I gave you that during the She-Hulk episode, though.
Give me it again, man. And this is ridiculous.
I was gonna say Battlestar.
That's horrible. That would have been the one where I would have walked out. I would have started my own pod. I would have started the antithesis to this podcast.
The Baron Mordo of the podcast.
Yes. You know what? I'll actually accept it. He's the best character in the entire universe.
He was great.
He was great.
All right, guys. Super Bowl next week.
Yes.
Who you got?
I think Pat Mahomes is going to pull this one off. I think
we
this
agree.
Eagles' dream run is coming to an end. Pat Mahomes is one of my favorite football players, if not favorite athletes right now. So I pulling for him.
Yeah, we
Hopefully
agree.
He pulls this off. Yeah.
I'm going Chiefs 31-28.
I'm going Chiefs 26-23 field goal walk off.
Classic Super Bowl. But we'll be here for all the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get a Fast 10 trailer.
Oh, we're getting back to our roots, man.
Yes.
We're getting back to our roots.
The return of the Fast and Furious discussion.
Oh, Jason Momoa is going to be in this movie.
I hope. Yeah, I can't wait. We'll save it. We'll save it for next week. All right, guys. Until then, we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Peace.